sheriff's office got him.
78. And then my oldest is
Mighty Mighty.
so yeah, my oldest is in elementary 12. But he's going to do.
Okay, that's the Pee Wee.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess you can call it Pee Wee this last juniors.
Yeah. Because then they go to middle school.
Because they go to middle school by then. My boy is the youngest one. I think he got 6 or 7. He's in 5th grade.
They don't make him something by the time he's ready. By the time he's ready for middle school.
How you doing? We stop. Staying busy. Doing good though.
It's good to see you. All right, all right.
Looking says he enjoys it.
Yes, good, I'm glad to hear that, thank you for telling me that. I enjoy having you here. How are you?
Yeah, Daryl's a good guy.
We make it, we all make a great team.
Oh yeah. It makes a difference.
She used to be the assistant principal at my school for the past 3 years, and then just moved her to the principal position. That kind of was school. So she's kind of. Adam Thomas, he was the principal at South Coast High School. Michelle Simmons was his assistant for like 12 years. She's the head principal at
Sister on go. He's sitting on gate. Way to go.
That's how you roll.
Yeah,
On this side. We gotta work together.
I don't want to give you false hope. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Let's wide open. I know Pam had like a itty bitty superintendent.
Probably most of them.
I hope. We'll see. I know Randy there. He's on patrol with us.
Okay.
He's on patrol with us. He just graduated 18, so he just started with us.
Really?
Yeah, I think he just got a training. And he's on patrol now.
Mr. Phipps. You heard from Chris? Get started tonight. I'm going to ask Mr. Coleman if he'll lead us in a word of prayer. All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Columbus County Board of Education to order at this time. If you would, please join me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Gentlemen, you have before you the final agenda for tonight's meeting. I need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion on the agenda? Anything that needs to be added? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have an agenda. You also have before you the minutes from our September 9th meeting. I need a motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Coleman. Second by Mr. Long. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Public comments. Mr. Phipps.
We have no public comments tonight.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Beck, special presentations and recognitions.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have first the Focus Broadband Education Grant recipients. At this time, we'd like to ask the board to come up front with Mr. Thompson to award these awards. We have Nakana Middle School, Ms. Kristen Wall. Focus Broadband Grant funds will be used to purchase Chromebooks for use by students. Williams Township School, Ms. Kathy Trost. Grant funds will aid the project Collaborating Comments Coming Alive for hosting a workshop with professional artists aimed at teaching students about storytelling, character development, and critical thinking by designing comic strips. So we want to thank them for their participation in this grant process, and good luck with those proceeds, ladies. You don't have to. And Mr. Chairman, next, if you guys could stay there, we have the Gold Bell Award from the North Carolina School Board Association. So just a little bit about that. All members of the Columbus County Board of Education earned 12 hours of training during the 2024 school year, and 25 districts out of 115 accomplished this feat. So we want to thank you guys for your dedication and devotion to Columbus County Schools. And that is all of the special presentations. Mr. Chairman, next on the agenda, we have Mr. Joe Memory with Floor Tress. He is going to present to us tonight on school safety and a product that he would like to demonstrate to the board in reference to increasing the security of our public schools. So at this time, Mr. Memory, if you would come up.
So you want me to use the microphone, huh?
Yes,
Not
sir.
loud, okay.
You have to.
All right, good enough. You got to record it, huh? I got you. Hey, good evening. My name's Joe Memory. It's a pleasure being with you tonight. I'm accompanied by Chris Thompson and David Greeno and Randy Moreau. Randy and David, Chris and I are retired highway patrolmen, and David is retired New Hanover County Sheriff's Department. David is actually the creator of Fortress, and we're excited for him to be here with us tonight. And Randy's his chief operating officer, okay? So we're excited about being here. Thank you, Mr. Beck, for lining this up, Mr. Thompson. We met with you guys about a month and a half ago, and you guys got us on the agenda for tonight. And I want to thank the school board for letting us be here. You know, I'm going to be cognizant of your time. I know your time's important because my time's important to me, but it's so important that you're going to need to see this tonight. And every one of you come from various backgrounds, as I, okay? We're all similar in backgrounds because we're all from this area, most of us. And, you know, growing up, I didn't have to face the challenges that you guys face now. For the better part of 3 decades, I worked the road in North Carolina, protecting lives and properties with our state. I didn't face the challenges that you face in the school systems now. These kids come to your schools looking for 2 things, love and acceptance. Is that correct? They're looking for that. Stuff that they're probably not getting at home in many situations. So you guys have come here and you are in one accord. You all agree that these children need 1 or 2 things. That they're looking for safety and they're looking for love. And we're here tonight to help you make that better. This is going to be a part of your security system that is a layered approach to security. Our goal is for an active shooter. Chris, if you want to go ahead and just you got that queued up. So we're going to, it's effective because it prevents entry even if the door is compromised. The softest part on a door is the door lock itself, okay? The door lock itself, the deadbolts can be breached within 3 to 6 seconds. I've got 2 gentlemen here tonight that helped us film a video not too many weeks ago at Guideway Middle School. It was Guideway, is that right, guys? So we've got Patrick Harry and Robert Williams tonight. These guys, they were able to breach the doors with just these locks on in a mere seconds. But with the Fortress system, it was impenetrable. They could not get into the door with the system with it in place. So, Chris, if you want, let's go ahead and let's be cognizant of their time. Let's go ahead and show them the video. And active shooters right now is something that we never had to face. Irvin, when we graduated in elementary school, we had like 8 people graduate our class. You remember that? Okay, we didn't have that problem. Ronnie, West Columbus, we didn't have those problems. We would see a fight occasionally, but these guys and kids now, they'll shoot you and not even think about it. We saw it on the roads. It got worse at the end of my career. These folks are carrying guns, and they can get them into your schools. I don't care what system you've got in place, it can happen. And the active shooters, and not all of the shooters at schools are an active shooter situation. They are active shooters, but they're not there just for that. It may be gang related, right? But you still have those problems. You're going to go down on lockdown. So we're going to show you this video, just kind of show you how it works, and then we're going to let you put your hands on it and see what you think about it, okay? While he's doing that, I'm going to put these in your hands so you can see, feel the beefiness of these things. What you have here is an aluminum sleeve that goes about 3.5 inches into the floor. It goes into the floor, it goes into the concrete. And in the concrete, you use a little concrete adhesive glue to make it stick. Then, when the teacher goes into the classroom, if they decide to do it this way, that will be up to how you want to do it. But my suggestion is the teacher puts it in the floor whenever class starts. That way, he or she does not have to think about it once class gets going. And then you have an active shooter situation. It's already in the floor, okay? They don't have to think of it. It's there. It's got a cap. When they take it out, they put that cap in the floor, so it's not an endangerment to anybody stepping on it, twisting an ankle. It's so close to the door. This is a template that we use to get about 2 inches from the door jamb. It goes up under the doorknob, basically. It lines up with the doorknob. And when this thing's in the floor, you'll see, once they get this thing going, this thing's impenetrable. These two gentlemen here, how tall are you? 6'3", about 285 pounds. He mule kicked the door with the door lock on it. He was within that door within 3 seconds, roughly. They could not get in the door with this Fortress system in it. 2 of them tried to penetrate it, couldn't do it. Now, this is not to cure the cancer, okay? This does not stop people from getting killed in your schools. It will prevent a lot of deaths, okay? These children are like little lambs, though. They're in these classrooms. They're vulnerable. You know, you take Uvalde, you take Sandy Hook. These kids were just sitting ducks. So this thing is to try to get that person to get frustrated at that door, move to the next door, or they're going to get another one at the next door. They're going to get frustrated there. We want this person moving through the building. We want them to use as much time so our SROs can get to these folks in 1 or 3 things, right? We don't want to be morbid here. We want them to distinguish the problem. We want them to get rid of the problem. We want the problem to leave the building, or we want them to take themselves out, right? We want them to get frustrated. But that's what this does. It frustrates them. They cannot penetrate it, and we'll show you right here.
Since the tragic events at Columbine in 1999, active shootings have escalated at an alarming rate, leaving countless communities in fear and mourning. Each incident is a stark reminder of the vulnerability we face in our schools, workplaces, and public spaces. It's time for a decisive change.
This does not take any special degree to put this in the floor. It's a hammer drill. It's 1 1/8 inch drill bit. Goes into the concrete. Slip the sleeve in there. It's in place. That's how simple it is. Your maintenance people can do this for you. This is nothing that you got to hire anyone special to do this. All right, he just breached this door. This is just the door lock itself. What was that, about 3 seconds, Patrick? 3 seconds, okay? It says 6 seconds there, but it wasn't that many. He breaches that. So there's no doorknob there now at all. There's no lock in place. So if you will, watch this. Door lock's already been torn off. He's just removing that right now. Fortress system is in place in the floor on the other side of the door. This is a door that's made out of Luan. It's got styrofoam in the middle. This is Guideway School. This is an older school. It's not the doors that you have now. And this is the exact kick they use to try to breach doors when they go to a drug dealer's house to try to make entry into the house. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. And these guys are worn out at this point in time. They're worn out. Now this is a metal door. This metal door has no lock on it at all. There's nothing there holding it but the Fortress system in the floor. Guy's 6'3", 285 pounds. That should get in any door. No active shooters are going to come in your building with one of these in their hands, all right? Unless it's a team of mercenaries, okay? That's not going to happen.
Introducing Fortress.
So, that's good.
Designed not only to save lives, but to deter potential.
What is so good about this is, like I said earlier, it does not take a special license to install these things. Your maintenance people can do that. Saves on your price. We don't want to get into the maintenance aspect of it because I don't know when your schools are going to let me in there to do these things, right? So it would be easier for your maintenance. I installed 9 the other day at my church, and it took about 10 minutes to install one. in about 2 hours, I had the tools unloaded off my truck, back in the truck, and 9 in the floor. That's how simple it is. And you guys want to kind of tell them about your experiences with breaching doors?
I'm Robert Williamson. I'm a school resource officer at Williams Township School. I've been with the Sheriff's Office almost 12 years now. A little bit of background, I'm also the commander of the SWAT team. I'm a beginner SWAT, advanced SWAT certified. I'm a rapid deployment instructor. I teach rapid deployment for law enforcement as far as when it comes to active shooters. Got a little bit of a history on it. Did 8 years in the Marines, 2 combat tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan, 4 Purple Hearts. I've been around a block or two when it comes to breaching. I've breached thousands of doors. And that's not including my military, that's just with the SWAT team alone. And I've never come across anything like this system. When I say we could not breach it, we could not get through it. Most active shooters, they're gonna be 120, 150 pounds at the heaviest, and they're not gonna kick like we do. They don't know that technique, that mule kick. They're gonna just try to kick straight on and have a gun in their hand, trying to breach into a door.
Thank you,
You're
Robert.
going through it.
Thank you for coming tonight. I wanted Robert to come and Patrick to come because these guys actually helped us with these videos, and they have breached thousands of doors. So I didn't breach doors on the highway patrol. I breached a few car doors, okay, and we did our thing there, but it wasn't breaching doors like these guys are doing on a daily basis. So if you folks are interested in this product, man, there's a grant out there with Center of Safer Schools right now. Every district can get up to $500,000 for security equipment. Correct me if I'm wrong. And this thing has been extended. This thing
We got 72,000 last year.
Did you? Okay, well, you got to push the right product, Mr. Strickland. So that's why we're here to help you tonight. That's why we're here to help you. But anyway, I'm being a little facetious there, but you're right. They don't always, but we've got a young lady that's helping us with these grants, and they can help you with your grant, okay? Well, she can. And I've talked to Dr. Piggott, and we're going to meet tomorrow. If you guys or ladies are okay with that, and we're going to try to move forward to help you as much as we can. You have any questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
So what's going to happen, and I see several principals out here because we have school improvement plan presentations. What's going to happen when a student grabs one of them and puts it down and locks himself in the classroom?
That's a good question. That's where your teacher is going to have to be somewhat responsible for that product before it goes into the floor. It's just like someone picking up a staple gun off of a desk. They can use that as a weapon as well. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not going to get in it unless somebody comes and breaches the door, i.e., cut the corner out of that door to get into that system. Okay, but hopefully these kids will see that it is for their safety, and I don't think it needs to be anything that we hide from them. You don't hide the ball from them. You let them know what it's about, but it's for their safety. And if they see that, if you take it away, you're taking away that security component, that layer of security. So, Mr. Strickland, I'll be quite honest with you. Like I said, it's not a cure to cancer. I don't have all the answers to that. How do you prevent a kid from, unless you lock it up? But if you lock it up, teacher forgets where the key is, and you have that situation, he or she has to drop it in the floor immediately. Again, that's why I say drop it in the floor before class gets started. When class is over with, they take it out of the floor and has to go to the restroom, you place it back. I wish I could say that we could prevent all the killings that would take place in the school. Right. I don't think any product can. This is something, though, that's going to slow this active shooter down. It's going to give these guys a chance to get there. This young man here is an SRO. This man's a 3-time Purple Heart recipient. So I know he's not afraid, right? He's going to actively engage that active shooter, okay? He's going to go to war for these kids because that's what they deserve from us. Physically, I can't do the job anymore like these guys do. They're young. They're hulky guys. I'm just old and broke down. I can't do it anymore. But I feel like with this product, we still can save lives, and that's why we're here. I hope we can help you with it. Any more questions?
It's getting closer and closer.
Well, you know what? You don't know. I think every school that's ever had an active shooter in it always thought that would never happen. And now, again, every active shooter situation is not the guy that sit there and plotted for 3 years, and I'm going to go into school and kill 25 kids today, teachers. But you're going to have gang members that will do the same thing. This product will also help with that situation, right? It's just not for that one situation. It helps with all that. Any lockdown situation. I.e., we owned a child care center, my wife and I, for about 12 years. husband and wife situations at home when it's not always the best. That's another reason to be able to use this system to lock in place, right? So that parent can't get in there to the child. So
Any other questions?
So this, you drill and then you put some epoxy, or what do you
put epoxy cement glue on there, sir. I put it at the bottom, slide that in, the epoxy glue slides up to the top, it seals it in place.
And then there's just a little bit of maintenance, you're going to come around and vacuum this thing out or something?
Well, what we do when we drill the hole, we're using a shop vac to try to suck the dust out. But yes, before you start actively using those, you would need to go in and suck the remaining dust out of that hole there. Yes, sir.
I'm talking about long-term maintenance, I would think once a year maybe you would get enough dirt to.
That's probably not a bad idea, sir. You're thinking way ahead of me. And yes, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think this is just presentation.
Yes, just a presentation. They will meet tomorrow to further discuss this.
Yep.
And then we will move forward at a later date.
So I will say this, Mr. Beck, if you give me this opportunity, I think the grant closes the 31st of October.
Okay.
So we're kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit, but I've hired a lady to help us with this grant to make it easier for you folks. And so I hope that we can move forward and help you with it.
All right.
And we meet tomorrow, and I hope we'll have good news when we get done.
And we thank you for coming.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
gentlemen.
Nice to meet
Appreciate
you
y'all.
We do
guys.
appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Can I get those back from
Nope. I was going to take it home.
Hey, look,
That's mine now.
Take it to your house, put it before them. Same thing at your house.
Right, exactly.
Get that lid right there. Good question. I appreciate you asking that. I got to answer not somebody else.
We do appreciate it, gentlemen.
No, thank you, sir. We're going to get out of here, okay?
All right, go right ahead.
Folks, you need this in your school, so hit them up. Talk to the ones that really matter out here, you know what I'm saying? Thank y'all, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks.
you so much. We appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Chairman, at this time, we will start our school improvement plan presentations. First, we have Acme Delco Elementary School, Mrs. Christy Lemthal. So, Ms. Lemthal?
Are we doing it or you doing it? Is it to that one? Okay. Is it okay? All right. Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Hey,
It's good to see everybody this evening. I have brought one of my staff members with me, who's also our school improvement chairperson, Ms. Linda Parker, to join us in our presentation to share our information about Acme Delco Elementary School with you this evening. We're very excited because we've had a fantastic start to our school year and a whole different shape and model and culture of Acme Delco Elementary School, so there is some changes coming. So we want to start off, and we're going to start with our school mission. Our school mission this year has changed because we now are an opportunity culture school, as you know. And so our mission at Acme Delco Elementary School is to provide a nurturing, learning environment that will help students become respectful and organized, who strive to always be positive and responsible citizens.
Our school vision is that at Acme Delco Elementary School is to create a dynamic learning environment that stimulates intellectual curiosity and fosters essential skills.
And that was a change. We actually worked on creating that and designing our mission statement when we went through our training with Opportunity Culture this past summer. And we are actually living 100% by it because we feel like we deserve a change, our students deserve a change, and we want to see good things happening. As you can see, our school was broken down into several different areas. Our current enrollment is at 347. We have an exceptional education population of 15%, AIG 4, ELL 11, and then if you look, you see our demographics broken down by each particular subgroup, as well as our staff is broken down as far as our total amount of employees. You may have any questions regarding that before I move on. I don't want to go too quick.
Yes, your enrollment increased by how much, Ms. Lenthal?
Our enrollment increased by 60 this year of students I have never seen before. 60.
Yes, and I just wanted you
First
guys
time we have
to
ever seen
realize
that happen. I don't know where they came from, but I'm glad they came. We'll take some more.
Wide range of grades or?
All across the board. If you were to look at our breakdown of grade levels, right now, we are completely packed out in every single grade level. We actually just found out we're still finishing our investigation. I'm probably going to be allotted another teaching position very shortly, and possibly even a partial TA position. So I'm waiting for the final clarification from that from our HR department. As soon as that happens, we're going to be hiring an additional teacher, more than likely going in our 6th grade department, because our 6th grade is huge at this point in time. So we're trying to provide the best learning environments for our students, and we found the 6th grade's our largest grade right now, so we're going to need some extra support there.
Did you see any particular demographic up or down, or was it just spread out evenly across the demographic?
Honestly, if I back up just a second, it doesn't like me, Kelly. All right, if I back up, this school has shifted in the last several years between our larger populations every year, okay? So this year, when I was working out the numbers, it was very interesting to see that for the first time in the last several years, our highest population was actually our Caucasian population. Normally, it shifts between our African American and our Hispanic population as our two highest, okay? So this year was the first time it's been a shift. It very much shocked me because I was not prepared for that one. But at the same time, when I started breaking it down, because honestly, I know we look at those subgroups, we look at them, but I don't see children like that. I see them as they're all my kids, they're Bobcats. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're about. So on that side of it, where they came from, I've had kids return from charter schools this year. I've had some crossover from Bladen County to us now because I think they are considering closing one of the schools over in Bladen, so they've already shifted to come to us. And then some of these kids have shown up, and I have no idea where they've come from.
We recently had a private school that closed right near us, too.
Mm-hmm. We had a private Christian school that closed, and so we retained a lot of their students back to us, too. So it's been a lot. Two brand one new was just open within about 7-8 miles of the school, and it's right across Brunswick's line. So, anyhow, questions?
I think a lot of it, I'll make a comment. I think a lot of it is anticipation of a new school as well.
I think I would agree with you. I think our community's super excited.
We saw the same thing in the western side of the county.
Mm-hmm. So we're looking forward to seeing all those things happen and occur. All right, your turn.
With academic success, our growth for the last year was negative 2.94. That was an increase in growth by 1.9 points, but we narrowly missed our making growth by 9 cents of a point. But we did make growth across all grade levels in reading. We made growth in 6 out of 7 subgroups in math, 7 out of 7 subgroups in reading, and 1 out of 3 subgroups in science, and 82% of subgroups made growth across all grade levels.
And we figured that is really, really significant. While we did not quite achieve where we wanted to be, we still grew, and that's the important thing, is that we're growing. And we realize that we have more to do, and we're hoping that even further on in our presentation, you'll understand why we're so excited and we can share more about what's happening at Acme-Delco. Culture successes, 100% teacher retention right now at Acme-Delco Elementary School, and that's basically due in part to opportunity culture and our shift and our change of our mindset, and we're hoping to retain all 100% again this coming year because we got a lot of good group there, and we've also changed our culture. We've switched up teachers from multiple grade levels to try and get the best fit for our students so they have the best opportunities. And so we're excited to keep that, especially with opportunity culture in play for us. Any questions? I don't want to go too quick. I do like to talk fast. Okay, Kelly. Here we go. As you can see, as I mentioned before, we were not where we wanted to be, obviously, okay? We felt like that while we did make growth, and that was significant, and we narrowly missed getting our growth for the year, we did decline in our proficiency. However, we do believe that with our shift in our mindset of culture, of tutoring culture at Acme-Delco now, as well as providing additional support in all areas, that we can definitely, over the next several years, grow to meet our expected goal, which is a grade level of a C for our school. And with high growth, which is our new term of phrase now, is high growth, then we're hoping that that will also get us proficiency at the same time while we pursue the same things. Okay. Questions? Oops, on the wrong
wrong
way.
way.
My bad. So one of the things we found that contributed significantly to our decline in our overall academic achievement was our attendance rate. When we started looking through our attendance rate, we saw that last year in 2024, our overall rate for the year was at 73.3% attendance with a chronic absentee rate of 67.8. That is highly unacceptable. And falling right in line with where our vision is from our superintendent for us this year, as well as what we're wanting for our school with our community culture, and as far as academic achievement, we have already set forth goals to increase our attendance and make it a better overall picture for Acme Delco Elementary School this year. As of right now, for September of 2024, our rate is at 93.95 right now, and I just checked the numbers this morning. So far in October, we're at 92.52. We did have a slight decline because we had a nasty little virus go around our school, which is going to happen from time to time. And as of right now, I checked for chronic absentee, which we consider 10 or more, 11 to 20 as you look on the slide. And as of this morning, there are 7 students that fall in that category. I have already turned these over to our social worker for also investigation to see what's going on. I know that one case in particular I checked into, it is a medical situation. And so on that side, we're trying to, also honor those requests, but they still encourage the children to be at school because they can't learn if they're not at school. So we're looking at early intervention, which is we're already there doing that, and then parent engagement related activities to tardies and absences. So one of the things we've been doing with every parent conference that's been had, or every time I've talked to parents, as well as my call outs every week, and then also with our students, believe it or not, with our broadcasts every week, we are focusing on the importance of being in school. We are showing which grade levels have the highest attendance rates, which ones have the lowest attendance rates, and we're trying to have our students to buy back in as well as our parents. So that way they see the importance of being at school so that you can learn. Because if you're not there, it's not the same.
I would think putting that information in front of the parents, that would make a difference. Are they receptive as far as any engagement?
So far, they are pretty much, or I know we call one parent, as a matter of fact, today to check on the child. And the child is really, really sick. It's got a bad case of bronchitis. And I explained to the parent that we're trying to shoot for the entire school to make sure we're raising our attendance rate to make sure they're there, but however, we don't want germs. So I want them to keep them at home. And that way we can still continue on focusing, but seeing the parents, especially, one of the things they've talked about is on my most recent call out was I told them that if they had 15 minutes that they were late to school every day, over the course of a week, you're talking 75 minutes. Over the course of a year, you're talking 2,700 minutes that you cannot regain back from learning. So having that on call, it's making sure I'm educating them about things of being at school. I'm thinking that's helping too. And then every time we have them in front of us, we're trying to expose all we can to them about the information of being at school, because being at school correlates with grade achievement as well as disciplinary actions. So on the same side, we're trying to make sure they're seeing all 3 of these aspects.
So whenever we have children that are absent from school, are their teachers putting things in Google Classroom so that if a child is sick, they can still physically get on their Chromebook and do the work?
If they are physically able, then they're able to go and see, because the teachers are putting their lesson plans in Google as well. Anytime we have a student who does unfortunately receive a suspension, I make sure they take their Chromebook home with them, as well as their teachers are notified to provide assignments for them, just to make sure we're still keeping them on board when they return, because we don't want them falling behind. So yes, they are required to have their Google Classrooms.
And so if a child misses tomorrow, will they be able to sit at their home and get on Google, the Chromebook and stuff, and do their work?
I want to tell you yes, but I know I can't guarantee that right now until I go back and double check them myself at the same time. But the teachers are aware their Google Classrooms should have everything in it just as well.
Is
Yes, correct.
And I think that with our programs that we're using now, that most of the assignments are online. I know, like for 6th through 12th grade, Study Sync, the assignments are online. I think the assignments are majority are online for iReady Math. So I think most of them have access, if they have their Chromebooks, to some type of work that they can access while they're online. I know I post like my social studies online.
It should be our expectation as principals and teachers, that if a child misses school, unless they can't physically get on that Chromebook, they should be able to sit in front of that Chromebook and get their work done that day as well. So that they're not physically in the building, but they're still being educated.
100%.
And it all starts with awareness, and that's why, at the beginning of the year, we did focus on chronic absenteeism because it's a major concern of mine. And then, you become aware of it, then you drill down to the individual student, and that's where we make the difference. So, Ms. Lenthal, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I mean,
It's not
anytime
just
you
me.
look at- Anytime you look up there and
Well,
see.
you and your staff, you
That's
know what I
right.
mean?
That's right.
Anytime you look up there and see a 73.3% attendance rate, that's a failure. It's a failure on our part.
It was very sad to me because I started reflecting back on even when I came from school, and I remember thinking I couldn't wait to get to school. And so I wonder where we need to pick up the ball to make that feeling for our students continue. We just actually had a conversation earlier today about what we're going to do to motivate one of our grade levels, because we feel like they're not as invested as should be. What we're going to look at to try and make them feel like this is important, that this is important for me, that's going to help me later on. So we're looking at some different avenues there for some motivational skills for them.
Well, the engagement, student engagement.
Absolutely, 100%.
Have we passed out student surveys too? And I know our kindergartners and stuff can't do it, but like even to take home, because I think sometimes if we talk to our students and find out what they're wanting, to see, where we're missing at, because, if they're not, we've seen it 1,000 times, sometimes kids just don't want to be there. Either it's engagement or, bullying or whatever, they just don't want to be there. And, trying to get that information from the student itself is important.
And one of my particular initiatives for myself as a leader is to establish a student council at our school, so that way I do get immediate feedback from students, meeting with them multiple times throughout the year.
I would think too, and I'm sure you're pleased with it, but your teacher attendance as well, leading by example.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you've got that in there.
Absolutely. I actually worked on that today, as a matter of fact, because I was curious after looking at my data from last year, which my data for teacher attendance last year was pretty exceptional, I thought. But then I went and looked again already, and we're hitting at 98% for the first 2 months, and now we're in October at 96% for my teaching staff. That's all certified teaching members. I have not finished classified at this point in time. That is my next step. But I know that the value of our teachers being there, because we need them to make sure we're following what we're doing, so that way it goes within our opportunity culture model and goes on down to our next associates that are down below them from our MCLs. Any open positions at this point in time? Yes, I do. But not, I have I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to make a recommendation to close it, so. But I do have a teacher assistant position that is open at this point in time. So as soon as I can get one more person, all my staff will be filled. The only thing we have not filled is my 4th reach associate position for opportunity culture, but we're holding for that position right now because I already have enough TAs from our state allotment. I do not have the extra space to take that slot over to hire another TA. So we're training someone now in hopes that we can do it next year for them.
Okay. I was more
Certified positions?
certified position.
We're good.
You're good.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
One more thing before you move on. I'm up here.
I'm sorry.
Can you explain to the board how the lesson plans and the Google Classroom and the curriculum go together? So we want to have this for a kid that misses, and you brought up the example of if he misses the day or she, that they can go home and this stuff's right there ready. Is it that easy? Is it that simple for our teachers to coordinate that every single day throughout their job?
I want to tell you that, yes, it should be that easy, but I'm also going to tell you that right now with them learning 2 brand new curriculums and they have a new lesson plan design they're using, that it is a lot that they are learning and taking on. So far, they're doing a great job. I will tell you that 100%. Taking that and transferring into Google Classroom, Ms. Parker?
Well, I post most of my assignments in Google Classroom with the exception of StudySync because it's already online, unless I kind of change the format of the assignment, but that's how my students access their assignments most of the time. They go find it in Google Classroom. So I would say as a teacher, and even when I was in 3rd grade, almost all of their assignments were online. And that's where they found it, was Google Classroom.
It is challenging, I will say that. Okay, I would say that right now with them getting used to the things that they're doing now with 2 new curriculums, sometimes 3, those things, they're still transitioning to getting those things, but I can tell you right now, I would say confidently, 3rd through 6th grade would be very affluent and be able to do these things. They've done them now for several years. That's unfortunately the pandemic put us there.
Yeah.
You know, but being able to do that now, continuing on, is definitely something they can do. As far as K2, it's a little different, you know, because they're younger.
Yeah.
But now, I can tell you right now, I can watch a kindergarten class go and log into their programs all by themselves without needing anything other than the teacher to give them, here's your directions, your rainbow, to this, to the FIG, get in. And so they can be trained to get into it. So it's a little different on that side, but I think it's still very possible. I think it should happen. I think it should be right there ready.
Okay. I'm not as concerned about regular, if we make it too easy for them to make up the work, then we make it too easy
To
for
be
them
absent.
to be absent.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that truancy letters are for right now, because they are hitting them kind of heavy.
Well, they need to.
They are.
They need to, but, you know, I'm not as concerned about a daily classroom lesson being available to a child that's at home sick.
Well, I know that's one of the things, like parents, if they do call and notify of what's going on, they do ask. And as I
Right.
explained to them, first and foremost, if your child is sick, then they need to get time to be well. Second of all, if they feel like they can, then obviously we'll make sure they've got stuff to work
Correct.
on. You know, unless I'd being the compassionate person about that too, but at the same time, providing them the opportunity, do they need it? You know, we're still fighting down our way people who still don't have internet in some cases. So on that side, you know, we even provide sometimes packets if necessary, or send them their workbooks. So on that side of it, we try to give them what they need, but it is accessible for them.
Right.
Okay, any other questions about absenteeism, school attendance? All right, our special populations data snapshot, I feel like it says a lot, okay? It's very telling that when you can see that your subgroups of your AIG students, your EC students, and also your ELL students all continue to grow, except for one area, and that was in our math for our EC students. Now, unfortunately, we contribute that because we had a teacher who substituted for most of the year last year who was strong in reading, not so strong in math, okay? However, we're very fortunate this year. I do have a full-time teacher who can do both. So we're hoping to see a big significant change there, as well as with the schedule that we're running for providing additional support for interventions through their classrooms, through their small groups, and also from our intervention schedule. So it's nice to see that growth. We want to see it be green in all categories.
All right, I'm going to show my ignorance here. What's the MLEL students?
English second language, migrant.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I thought it was, but I wanted to make sure.
You knew it. We were good. All right, so obviously we want to go back to our EC focusing heavily in math as well as not losing what they gain in reading. We want to make sure we're focused on that population because that is where our decline happened. Oops. Your turn.
Looking at our behavior, for last year, 85% of our total incidents, 85% were minor incidents, 15% were major incidents. That was 150 days of out-of-school suspensions. And then just for September, a total of incidents were 90% minor and 89% major incidents. Our major takeaways when we were looking at our data this year up to September, most of them were occurring in the gym or on the playground, and we have discussed as a team of monitoring procedures being put in place for the playground and incorporating health and life skill lessons in PE, including some sportsmanship lessons in the gym and during PE classes for 6th grade and elective classes for 4 through 6.
So I'm going to show my ignorance here.
Okay.
So we got 90%
I was going there too.
of minor incidents, but then we have 89% of major incidents. That doesn't, 89 and 90% of what?
I think the zero, the 8 is supposed to be just not a 0. I think it's just 9%.
Oh, okay, that makes
9%.
sense.
Okay.
That's an oopsie. So far this year, we're seeing that we're actually examining our data some today, reviewing it, and we found that right now our minors, while they have decreased, some of our majors have increased. And on that side, what we're finding out is ways that we're going to try to combat those increases, because what we're seeing is a lot of, not so much as disrespect, like this one would actually give you for specific. We're seeing a little bit of more of a physical aggression this time because they want to learn how to solve their problems, pushing or shoving rather than talking the situation out and handling it. So on that side, we're trying to put in some different interventions there, so that way we can help with that through our PBIS program, as well as counseling, as well as one-to-one with the parents. I can tell you that every single conversation this year, when it has come to something major, has been involved with the parent, either on the phone or sitting in front of me. So we had the open, frank conversation about what's going on with their child.
Can I weigh in one more time where you
Sure.
were talking about the playground and I like the fact that you said sportsmanship, okay? These kids need to let out energy. These kids
do.
need to learn that you get out and let energy and you play sports and you have that you have those good qualities, but also ways that you can compete, okay? And if you got a kid that's competitive, you don't always need to send him to counseling and tell him that he's too over aggressive. You need to roll him back, or he or she, whoever it is, and that you're going to need coaching out there to do that. And that's me from an athlete standpoint. I feel like we are holding our kids back, that they can't have any form of release. You know, it's you can't go compete. And now if you go step over that line, you need a coach saying, hey, you stepped over the line, you can't do that. Okay? But going out wanting to achieve a goal is okay.
And there is nothing wrong with some competition. I'm a firm believer in it myself. However, I also know that when we step too far, we've got to learn what it's about to be a good sportsman.
That's right.
You know, we've got to show what good sportsmanship is and demonstrate. That's why we want to include that in with also some health classes, so that we were aware of what's going on as far as the physiology of the skills you're learning and what you're doing. So we're looking at different ways to take that, as well as more active monitoring. Okay, so when they're outside on that playground, you've got teachers up walking, looking, seeing what's happening, versus just sitting and having a conversation with my friend, so to speak. Same thing in the gym. Well, in the gym, it's a little different situation. You've got confined, you've got one person normally looking after everybody. But at the same time, they've got to do the same things as active monitoring, making sure you're seeing things. Now, one thing I can say is so far this year, I have seen my coach in the gym really step up a little more, and I've brought numerous things, because I think we've got a more dedicated pursuit, because we see the need. And so on that side, I feel like we're making steps in the right direction. So we just want to continue to do it, to provide things, to make it even better.
My question is on the active monitoring. The team discussed putting active monitoring procedures in place. So are you saying you haven't had them?
No, we have, but the thing about it is restating, because whenever you do have people who, one, have moved from different grade levels, it's different things from when you're monitoring third grade versus monitoring sixth grade. You know, you've got different age levels, so you're going to have to go back and retrain and look at what the needs are.
Right. But on the playground, so.
You always have to restate them to make sure you're reinforcing your expectations.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was results from our teacher working conditions survey. With teacher retention, 88% of teachers felt like they were an important part of the school. Under school leadership, 92% of teachers felt like school leadership encourages teachers to use knowledge and skills from PD. 48% of teachers felt like school leadership creates a culture of trust in the building. 84% of teachers felt like student disrespect of teachers was an issue. 76% of teachers felt like disorder in the classroom and other areas was an issue. And 32% of teachers felt like professional development was differentiated to meet the individual needs of teachers. Excuse me. Teachers were invested in ADS and want to help the school to grow and to be successful. 60% of teachers prefer differentiated PD based off of their individual needs to grow professionally, and student behavior continues to be an area of focus and intervention across the school. And those were our major takeaways from our teacher working condition survey. And we did use the teacher working condition survey with the behavior aspect as part of our data when we developed our goal for our school improvement team.
So as you can tell, we've taken those numbers and we've gone back and we've already started designing plans to address the things we feel like are a concern. I'm going to go ahead and take that teacher retention. We feel like is a good thing, that we're really good at maintaining the folks that we have. Encouraging teachers to use new knowledge and skills 100%. You know, a lot of times teachers will say, can I go to so-and-so? I want to be able to learn these things. As well as what we, initiate as a county. Managing student conduct, that is one of the things we are trying to demonstrate to them is what is respect? Does it look like? How do you need to show respect and demonstrate it, model it? Make sure they're seeing it come from not only the staff members, but even going down and demonstrating what you did wrong, what you could have done differently. Why did you have disrespect? What was it about? And being able to dive down that, doing that through our guidance counselor as well as him going in and modeling those things through the classrooms as well. Parent conversations, coming back to that, what's going on? Because a lot of times, one of the things we do is keep our parent contact logs. We're talking about multiple things that occur when they occur in a quick and timely fashion because we want to make sure they're getting addressed right when they occur. Okay? And that goes back with the disorder piece, so to speak, as well, because a lot of times when you're having students who are moving and there's so many moving parts, we've got to make sure that they understand what those expectations are. Realigning them, saying those expectations. So one of those things we did this year was I went ahead and started right once school started, let them get settled, and we had meetings and discussed expectations again with each grade level to make sure they knew what their expectations were and they knew what would be expected from the administrative standpoint as well as from their teachers. You know, we constantly want them to reinforce what they need to know, how they need to perform, what the protocols are, and then if they have questions, ask. What we're finding is students don't like to ask questions. And so trying to get them involved more in the discussion is the most vital part there. Professional development for our staff. One of the things we've talked about, we just actually had a conversation with our staff meeting last week, was we have people who wanted multiple different things in addition to what we're doing in the county. So what we're going to be doing is on one of our work days, we're going to offer multiple PDs throughout the day of what is needed. For example, one of the things they're wanting is training on the ViewSonic boards, the new ones for the classrooms, as well as some additional classroom management. So we're going to offer probably hour and a half long PDs during work days they can attend at their choice based on what their needs are. And we can also sign things in through our observation system, NESIS. They can go and take a quick course there if they need something specifically as well. Okay, questions?
I'm going to ask this question, and it's really around the teachers' working conditions survey. Is that saying that 84% of our teachers feel that student disrespect of teachers is a major problem?
Yes.
Is that what that's saying?
Yes.
Okay. So 76% of our teachers say that disorder in the classroom or other areas is a major problem.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we can kill multiple birds with one stone here. Okay, I think if we deal with our problems and deal with the disrespect, I think we can drive the culture of trust in the building up. And I think, and this is not just an Acme Delco. This is every school across the district where student behavior tends to be a lot more of an issue after the pandemic than it was before. So, you know, I mean, we certainly don't want students to be out due to out-of-school suspensions.
Correct.
However, sometimes you have to set an example. You have to start off harder at the beginning of the year than you are at the end of the year. And I think that's a point that we all need to drive home. Set the standard in the first 2 months of school.
I actually pulled my data this afternoon as far how many suspensions I have done since the beginning of the year and the hours that we have already lost due to suspensions because of setting examples.
Right.
And we are already at 40.2 days. That's over 280 hours at this point in time. And that's simply because, like you said, and I do agree, you have to set that example so they know the expectation is going to be held accountable for them as a student and know their role.
Right. And if it requires a 0, they get a 0. I mean, I'm sorry. We've got to get a handle on it because that problem right there, student behavior, is what is driving our teachers out of the profession.
100%.
I was going to say this, but I can't. how are your referrals to, to our counseling and our mental health? Over the last several months, I have seen that a high majority of our students, their biggest worry is not school. It's whether or not they've got something to eat at home, whether or not mom and daddy's gonna be home tonight, whether or not their brother's getting locked up, or whatever. That's the problem. And we have to have some sort of working relationship to where we are dealing with that as well. You know, we talk about the pandemic, we talk about this, we talk about that, but the one thing that is got to be on the forefront is the mental health of our children. And the reason it is because the mental health of their parents has been sorely hurt over the last several years. And if it's not a stable home environment, it cannot be a stable learning environment. And we're partnered with several different agencies for mental health, for counseling for the students and the parents. I want all of our schools in this county to use those resources to push that, because whenever we fix those problems, that's when the building's going to get fixed. Until we reach these kids and find out why they're acting out, the reasons they're acting out, they don't have food at home, they don't have running water at home. They don't. And we've got to make sure that all of our resources are going to these people. And the referrals are getting put out at a timely manner, not when it gets to 15 days of absentees. Because there's students in our building right now with 15 days of absentees, and no intervention has been made yet. So we're falling short because we're not intervening as soon as we see a problem. I don't care if it hurts somebody's feelings, but we've got to save these children, we've got to educate them. And we can't educate them if we're fighting on both ends. So we've got to implement and use our resources to get these kids the counseling and the mental stability that they need, so that those numbers will come up. Those numbers will come up. So I was going to save it for everybody, but it's very important.
We're very fortunate at Acme Delco Elementary School because we do use those resources as quickly and as efficiently as we can. As a matter of fact, I can actually tell you I've done 2 referrals this week just off of one situation. Not a repetitive one, because I felt like the need was there. And so our counselor that is coming in from Coastal has done a great job. I don't even really know when she comes in because she's so private and preserves dignity of children that she comes in and literally she's there from the time she's there till the time she leaves. She's seeing kids back to back to back. And so the referrals are getting made. They're getting made just as soon as we see the need and make the recommendation through our guidance department as well, just so that you know that those things are occurring. And we do use them as extensively as we can. As a matter of fact, we overloaded them last year. So trying to make sure we want them there. We want them helping our students.
So Ms. Linthal, I agree with Mr. Coleman to every word of it. Except for, is this a majority? Is that this case? And I know every teacher and every administrator sees these kids and knows these situations. And I believe 99.9% of the people we have in Columbus County Schools is going to reach out to these resources wherever possible.
We do.
But I disagree with that being the majority of the problem with our
Agreed.
disrespect of teachers and our conduct. Am I incorrect to make that statement?
I think we have a lot of different reasons for that to occur. I don't think it's just one thing or the other, okay? I think we have a lot of things that are contributing to it. As a whole, Acme Delco, we went through the resiliency and trauma piece for 2 years with training, and we were the first school to implement morning meetings to try and combat some of those mental health things that came into the building with the students. And so we're still doing that every morning with every classroom. So that way those kids get an opportunity to release some of those things that occur, as well as we identify kids who we see with issues, so that way we can come back and meet either as a team, as a group, and come back and make the referral that we see is necessary, whether it be providing food, whether it be we help provide clothes. I actually have established a clothes closet at our school. So that way, if something was to happen, a fire burns out a home, we can outfit them. You know, if there is a need for food, we will make sure the child has food. But the thing about it is sometimes it's very difficult to identify this sometimes. But at the same time, as soon as we do try to give immediate attention.
But that is not the majority of your problems with disrespect.
I tell you, there's many different ways for it to occur. And if you ask me to pinpoint exactly one reason, I'm going to tell you there's multiple reasons.
Well, it would be nice to narrow that down to a few that you can
It would.
throw a big net and solve a lot of problems instead of it just saying that it's multiple.
I would say 9 times out of 10 right now, it's going to come back to, one, I don't know what I'm doing sometimes because I don't understand what's happening because I've been absent too much, okay? I would say some of that because I'm uncomfortable, I don't know how to ask for help, okay? I would also say that sometimes I don't know how to work well and play with others because my social skills aren't there as well, okay? Because that's what I see majority of the time whenever I'm having to deal with discipline is I'm having to actually teach them how to talk to one another and have those conversations. So if I had to drill down to 2 big ones, I just gave you 2.
Okay. Now that's putting you on the spot.
You're
I'm not
fine.
trying to be.
I expected it. We're good.
Yeah.
Yes. I did.
I just really want to, I want to move forward with it, and
I agree.
I'm just as compassionate as Mr. Coleman is about it, but I want to see some direction that that net is catching as much as possible, and we want to catch them all, but we got to think, all right, let's narrow this down. Let's not just say that it's, and even when you get into social skills, you know, that's a broad range of what causes social skill problems. Okay, I understand that, but I'd like to narrow it down and bring up as many as fast as we can.
Correct.
And hopefully, if both of those tie to attendance.
Correct.
And you think about that, if they're there, they're going to develop those social skills.
That is absolutely correct.
And, you know, I mean, I think of it like that. So hopefully your attack with attendance is going to improve the disrespect for the team.
I think we also have another component that's going to help attack that too, but we haven't got to that point yet to talk about it.
Well, your 5 minutes are almost
I'm
up.
sorry.
So we'll let you move on.
Go on. Okay, well, hurry. But I don't want to
No,
miss
that
the
was,
opportunity.
that was,
Slur on this.
yeah, exactly.
There will probably somebody talks more than me though. Anyway. All right, obviously we have our academic goals we want to share with you for our school improvement goal. ADME-DELCO will increase student proficiency by 3 to 5% in reading and math across all grade levels at the end of the 2004-2005 school year. One of the things I mentioned before, and I'm going to mention again, is we have become a full opportunity culture school, okay? We have designed our school to where we are now divided into basically 4 grade spans, a K1, 2, 3, grade 4, 5, 6 reading, grade 4, 5, 6 math. And with that, we're providing supports as guided by them to make sure they've got a tutoring culture to where they have multiple interventions during the day, both reading and math, and even science in 5th grade. And then as well as making sure that we're using our resource people who are our arts people, as well as that, and our computer skills, and other folks, even down to our PE coach, coming and helping provide interventions in reading and math so they get multiple supports throughout the day. They've got more than one person in that classroom multiple times a day. So that way, one thing we've had the past several years, and I'll say this, is we've used every resource we've had, and it still wasn't enough. Now, we've got more resources. And I'm not going to say it's not enough because I can't say that yet. We haven't been in it long enough. But what I'm going to say is if you come and walk in our school today and you watch the change of environment that's already occurred culturally, you'll see a whole different approach to learning. You'll see a whole different commitment to learning. And I think you'll see that as the shift is happening already. You're seeing commitment.
And I agree, Ms. Lepthal, because I have been in the school as well as Ms. Hunter, and if you do go into the school, you will see student engagement. That's going to resolve a lot of the concerns that you guys have just mentioned. Student engagement, you know, helping them enjoy being in the classroom, then the early intervention piece, you're going to see those numbers decrease. So I think we are definitely on target addressing those issues, but you know, when you implement a new curriculum, it takes time. You implement a new process, it takes time. But from what I witnessed the last time I visited Delco, I saw student engagement. I did not see those alarming numbers that were on the board just a few seconds ago.
Good. Good.
How much in depth would you like for me to go into this, or do you want to read?
We've got it. We've got it. We can, you hit the high points.
I thought so. All right, moving on to the next one. At Medoka Elementary, we will implement an effective school-wide management plan that promotes student engagement and reduces overall offenses by 5 to 10% by the end of the 2004-2005 school year. Obviously, we've already talked about this, and we know what we need to do. And if you've got high engagement in the classroom and you have not the opportunities for students to say, oh, I can get in trouble doing this, as well as challenge them and motivate them, I think that whole opportunity that we have to change that culture for that student is going to change significantly for our school in the same time. So I think that's one of the things we definitely need to do, effective classroom management. We're using PBIS with Fidelity and having Fidelity checks as far as that's concerned. And then at the same time, coming back and using our teacher working conditions survey and coming back, one of the things we've talked about doing already is taking each piece of that survey and making sure the teachers understand what the question is asking. Because sometimes we all do it, we get in a hurry. Whereas other times we look at it and we might not understand what it means, just like you asked for clarification from the questions earlier. We may need that too as ourselves, even though we get in a hurry. So at that time we want to make sure we're giving them all the information they need to make good informed decisions when they're answering these and use them to the benefit of our school. As you can see, we've got a prediction so far of what's going to happen over the next several years till we hopefully get to our goal. Now, as you can see, it still does not get to 55 by 2026, 2027. However, I'm hoping with great anticipation that we're going to be able to say, oh, we've already passed it. Because with opportunity culture, one of the things they predict, if you've implemented it with Fidelity, and we have 100% so far, is you will see the marked highest improvement throughout your school within that first year of implementation. And I even have a plan ready for, depending on the next year, of the next things we can do to even add more for resources for our students. So as you can see, we've done a 3 to 5% increase. So hopefully we're going to even be able to give you more and get there quicker. Okay? But at the same time, we don't want to sacrifice good quality learning to achieve, but if we get that good quality learning, it's going to achieve itself.
Some of the challenges and opportunities that we are looking at are closing the academic achievement gaps for students in order to ensure academic growth and grade level proficiency achievement, decreasing chronic absenteeism, and increasing student engagement in ADS's vision and mission through PBIS initiatives, decreasing major and minor offenses by implementing PBIS with Fidelity, increasing teacher leadership through opportunity culture, improving teacher collective efficacy over ADS, across ADS.
And I think that is it, gentlemen. Do you have other questions?
I don't.
Please know you are invited to come and visit us at any point in time to see what is happening. We are super proud of what we've already done to change and move forward. And we'd like for you to come be able to visit and see what's happening at our school, because we are excited about what potentially is going to occur.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ladies.
Mr. Bland, you're in the hot seat.
It's cold.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness me.
There you go.
Oh, okay. I'm good. First of all, good evening. I hope everybody's doing well. Herman Bland, principal. Well, not really, sometimes, not all the time. Sheila Spalding, MCL. One of our MCLs, we have a partial MCL, Ms. Brittany Huggins, that couldn't be here tonight. Chapman Elementary School, home of the superstars. Our school mission, the mission of Chapman Elementary School, is to establish a community where students
teachers and all stakeholders unite, enabling every student to reach their highest potential. This school year, I have adopted the word together because everything that we are going to accomplish, we're going to accomplish it together, not only in our school, but also with our stakeholders, our parents.
Our vision is to create an environment that is ready for learning so that students are developed into scholars.
I think when you turned it, Mr. Jones, it didn't like it. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. All right. CES celebrates that our current enrollment is now 234. This school year, at the end of last school year, we were at 198. So we are thankful that we saw an increase in our enrollment. We have students that have come to us from all areas. A lot of our students have come from back from the charter school. We've had students to come to us as far as Minnesota, and how they're finding Chadbourne on their map, I don't know, but we are so glad that they are.
On the way to the beach.
We are so glad that they're finding Chadbourne. Our EC students make up 7% of our student population. AIG is underrepresented at Chadbourne Elementary School, and we're hoping that as a county that we can work on our process of choosing our AIG students. Our migrant and EL students are at 7%, but what we do celebrate, and one of my teachers actually brought it to my attention that our Caucasian students we're starting to see a major increase in our Caucasian students because, as you see, 54% of our students are our Black students. Academic successes that we celebrate at Chadbourne Elementary School is that we have had an increase in our overall growth by 0.27 points. Growth was made across all grade levels in math. We made growth in 4 out of 5 subgroups in reading, 5 out of 5 subgroups in math. We only had 2 subgroups in science, so 1 out of 2 subgroups in science, and 84% of our subgroups made growth across all grade levels. We celebrate that we have all of our teachers returning back to Chadbourne Elementary School, and I just told them this on yesterday that those of them that are there because they want to be. I'm not forcing anybody, I'm not bending anybody's arms, I promise, to be at our school. They're there because they actually want to be, and we celebrate that. We also celebrate that we are growing teachers, and we're making them come out of the box this year. That's another one of the terms that I'm using. Well, I actually started that last school year. I made some of our teachers unofficial MCLs before we knew that we were going into the MCL realm last school year, and so it was kind of an easy process to start picking and choosing those teachers that were already in that role. So we're excited about what's happening at Chadbourne Elementary School. Thank you, sir. All right, so look at this green. We're thankful for that. And I don't celebrate that alone. I celebrate that with the help of Ms. Spalding, the teachers, the parents. I feel like that our Chadbourne Elementary School as a whole is just starting to wake up all together. Our parents are really starting to buy into education in that area, and I'm just thankful. That's all I can say. I give all credit to everyone, and especially to, I got to say it, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because I'm praying over that school night and day. So we celebrate that we met growth this past school year. We were 1 point shy of being a C school this school year, but don't you know we're going to get it this school year because we are in the trenches and we're going to get it. We're going to do it together.
That's right.
Right. Our attendance rate at the close of the school year, last school year, we were at 87.89. We had, I broke it down on this side where you can see that we had 20% of our students that were missing between 11 and 20 days, 21 to 30 days, 17% of our student body was missing, had missed that amount of days, and 30 more days, we had about 14%. And right now, well, in September, we have 94% attendance rate with only 1% of our students missing 11 to 20 days. And what we celebrate with that, we celebrate that we had early intervention meetings with our school social worker, the teachers, we brought the parents in. We brought in a dad this time instead of the mom because the dad works away, and so he really didn't know that his child was missing the amount of days that they were missing. So brought dad in, I called him on his work phone, and he was like, "Who is this?" I said, "This is Mr. Bland." And we went in from there, and he came inside and then on the meeting, and he assured us that his child would not miss any more school days, and she hasn't. So we're thankful for that. Again, our AIG students are underrepresented, so we have no data for those. But look at this. We celebrate that our EC students have showed growth in math and in reading. Me and Ms. Spalding, we sat our teachers down and we told them, do not sell your EC students short. Those kids can do it if you stick with them and stick behind them. And they have actually made growth in both subject areas, so we're excited about that. Our behavior, of course, that is one of the things that we struggle with in Chapman, and I think I want to go back to Mr. Worley and Mr. Coleman. Yes, our students do struggle because of the things that they lack in their home. I was just talking to Ms. Spalding and Ms. Huggins about a specific student in general. She has been having some trouble in her math class, and she is starving for attention because her mother is currently in the hospital. She's staying with her father currently and his girlfriend, and I want to give you a little bit of the background. So you take a child that has had a home to stay in, an actual room of her own, and then you take that child from being in the room of her own and now living in a hotel in Chadbourn, a one-bedroom hotel, and now she's sleeping in the bed with her father and her potential stepmother. And what do you get? You get a child that's frustrated with life because not only does she not have her own bed to sleep in anymore, but she hasn't been able to visit with her mother because they're keeping her away from her mother. And we see this all the time in Chadbourn. There's a number of different stories that we wrestle with at our school. But what we do, we start checking in with those kids. So I told Ms. Spalding, I said, that's going to become my baby. And so I took her up under my wings. I have checked in with her the last 2 days. And no, I cannot change the fact that her mother is in the hospital. I can try to help dad and the girlfriend do something about their living situation, but they have to want to. That's the thing that has to happen with that. But what I can do is offer her myself while she's at that school. I can tell her that if you just hang in there, sweetheart, things can get better. But what Mr. Bland wants to do while you're at school is make sure that you're okay while you're in this building, that all of your needs are supplied, and give us and give your teachers the opportunity to educate you while you're here at the school so that your future could become brighter. And so that's what we try to do with all of our children. I celebrate 2 brothers in particular where we worked around the clock with the mother, trying to wake her up about her living situation with a abusive person. And so we educated her and we told her that her boys were dependent on her. You can't focus on all these other things that you got going on. You got to focus on what's important now, and that's your 2 boys. We celebrate that those boys are coming to school faithfully every day. They're coming to school with their book bags on, and they leave with their book bags on, and they're doing their homework. They're making strides this school year. those boys are not in my behavior factor this school year because we have put a little bit of time into them. We prayed over them. Mr. Blaine had to go toe-to-toe with their person of interest, but I had to stand my ground and let them know these kids are important to this school. You're either with us or you're not. And so we're making some changes. It's hard, but it's important. And yes, a lot of our behaviors are because our kids are struggling with things that little children should never have to struggle with.
And one of the major differences, Mr. Bland, in visiting your school, I will agree with you wholeheartedly. You address those on an individual basis. Your data shows that your students are eager to learn, and that's what I see when I go into those classrooms. But I also see teachers that are caring and that are addressing those issues, just like you just stated, on a daily basis. And that's what's going to ultimately make the difference and push you over the hump.
And that's what I was leading to. As long as we are recognizing these situations and doing all we can do, that's what we want to do. But I can tell your heart and soul into those two examples you just talked about is, yes, if that child acts out as disrespectful to a teacher, you're going to still address that.
Right.
You're holding them, you're picking them up and holding them to that accountability and loving them at the same time.
Right.
And that's what it takes each and every day. And then I believe that's what shows them how to overcome what they see in at home, how bad it is at home. They should be begging to get to that school.
Right.
You know, because that's the only safe place they have.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, but in that sense, a lot of time, and that's what I was alluding to is, as I was growing up, and we all knew classmates that had those living situations. They were the best students we had, because they knew they didn't take stuff for granted like the rest of us did, or many of us did. They come there to learn, and they were not a discipline problem.
All right. Go ahead, Fran.
So for our culture data snapshot from our teacher working conditions survey, this school is a good place to work. 100% of our teachers thought that this was a good place to work. I look forward to coming to work every day. 100% of our teachers look forward to coming to work. The school leadership communicates a clear vision. 100% of our teachers agree to that. Students follow the rules, 65%, and school admin supports teachers' efforts to maintain discipline in the classroom, 100%. So I believe with those results that you see, Mr. Bland is doing a great job.
The one thing now, like Ronnie said a while ago, the students follow the rule, 65%. That means 65% do or 65%
They do.
They do.
Okay.
Ms. Spalding, do you remember what that number was from the previous one 2 years ago?
I do not.
Do not.
Do you?
I'm sorry.
Oh, my mercy.
My thought is that has increased significantly.
Yes, yes. And that is more of a reflection on the students versus Mr. Bland's ability to deal with those situations.
Right.
And kids are going to be kids regardless.
Right.
You're never going to have 100% of students
No.
follow the rules.
Right.
Just not.
Right.
I would say just commenting on the 4 areas of 100%, it lets you know that you're in sync with your staff. That's a good thing.
All right. Chapel Elementary School academic goal. We will increase our performance goal by 3 points by the end of the 24-25 school year. And we have a lot of different things that we're going to do that. One of the things I am conducting walkthroughs and using that walkthrough data in my meetings with my MCLs. We constantly are meeting all week long on how can we improve the culture of our school, how can we improve classroom organization. We have went into classrooms last week, cleaning up and cleaning out, trying to help get some order, because we have 28 kids in kindergarten with 3 more coming, and we had to just get some order in those classrooms. So that's one of the things that we're doing, helping teachers, giving teachers planning time, 45 minutes of duty-free lunch, so that they can actually sit down and plan, and then an additional 45 minutes in the afternoon so that they can have more time to plan and get acclimated with the new curriculum. So there's a plethora of different things that we're doing that we could not put all on this, okay? Any questions about that? We're rocking. All right. Our culture, Chapman Elementary School will strengthen the MTSS core for all students with the goal of decreasing the amount of instructional time lost by 25%. This school year, we have initiated the resilience training, and so we're doing morning meetings, and our teachers are checking in with our students first thing in the morning to try to alleviate some of those behaviors, because if we know how our kids are doing first thing in the morning, then we can kind of structure the rest of their day. And so we're excited about that. We are a full PBIS school, and we're just going from there. So currently we're at a 54, which still equals a D, but by the end of this school year, we will definitely be a C school. We have talked with our K2 folks, and we had a conversation with them, telling them how important our K2 data was to our growth. And we want them to know that just because you're not in grades 3 through 5 doesn't mean that you get to sit back and relax, because we need that 20%. And I told them yesterday, we are going to get that 20%.
That's right. They're the foundation.
They are there.
For
they
all
are
the upper grades.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
where
right.
it starts.
And so that's where it all starts. It starts in K2. So they have a big part to play as well. By the end of the 25-26 school year, we're hoping to be at a 56. At a 58. And then by the end of the 26-27 school year, Mr. Bland told his staff he hopes to be retiring at the end of this year, that year right there, 26-27, and I'm going to leave them with being a 60% or higher or C school.
Only if you're at 60.
Okay.
You got to stay
All
till it
right.
gets to 60.
Okay.
No, sir.
Our goal is it's a 70 before he can retire.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I agree.
Oh my
Accept his
goodness.
resignation.
That's right.
Retirement.
That's right.
Till he gets to a 70.
Right.
We'll see. Oh my goodness. So we're all about bridging gaps. So that is what we're hoping to be able to do, is bridge some academic gaps for students to promote academic growth and ensure proficiency at grade level. We want our students at Chapman Elementary School to be on grade level or above their grade level. So that's what we're trying our best to get all of them there. We want to decrease chronic absenteeism by utilizing PBIS initiatives and our resilience training that we're doing with our morning meetings. And we also want to continue to grow teachers across our campus. I want every one of our teachers out of the box. I tell them all the time, you could be the next principal of this school, you can be the next superintendent of our county. We just got to continue to push through. So that's us over at Chapman Elementary School.
Mr. Bland, I would like to say thank you for all your hard work. Known you for a long time.
Yes, sir.
From a teacher in the classroom to an assistant principal and now a principal, you've done a great job. You've got a daunting task. You've had a daunting task in front of you, and your leadership is voted well for that school and that community. And I certainly appreciate all your hard work and dedication to the students.
I love it there. I love it there, and I love the people there. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Y'all.
Hallsborough Artesia.
Join the hot seat.
You know, it's really hard for a hill to make it 5 minutes. I'm going to really try. I'm going to say that every year. Thank you for allowing me to come tonight and to present our school improvement plan. and I will try to keep it brief. This summer, we had the luxury of doing the School Improvement Summit here at the central office, or central services. And one of the things that my school improvement team did is that we went ahead and revamped our school mission and vision to include some of the key words and phrases that are also part of the Columbus County Schools mission and vision, because I feel like we need to be in sync with each other. So you will see that we have an updated school mission and vision. I will not read it for you. You guys can read it for yourselves, but that is our new and improved school mission and vision statement. So our school population currently, I'm very proud to say, we only lost about 8 students this summer at Hallsborough Artesia. Hallsborough traditionally before that had been one of the schools that would have a large number of coming and going. So you would start off the year low, and then as the year progressed, you would get higher. Currently, I'm already sitting at 396 students. I actually had to add a kindergarten classroom before the first 10 days. I held a position for a specific reason. I was not sure who was going to win. Was it going to be kindergarten or second grade that would get that new teacher, and it ended up being kindergarten. So I actually have 3 kindergarten classrooms right now. So I'm very, very, very fortunate. We're not losing students. We're gaining students. And again, I do think some of that is anticipation of the new school. I also believe we're getting a lot of students back from other schools such as the charter school, and I'm glad to see them come back. I welcome families all the time to come in and see what we're doing, because we have nothing to hide. So our EC population's at 12%, which is the sweet spot. AIG, that is the number one, and again, I think Mr. Bland has said it is underrepresented at Hallsborough Artesia. That is something I actually spoke with Ms. Hunter about, and I'm working with the AIG team, district team, to see if we can start identifying these kids in the PACE program at that younger age, so that we can have them identified as AIG when they get to the upper grades. And then our ELM migrant, of course, is 5%. You're good. One of our, I think one of the most positive things about Hallsborough is the diversity of our student population. We are one of the most diverse populations, and I embrace all those cultures that are part of Hallsborough Artesia, including our African American, our white, Hispanic, and of course our Native American population. And then employees, you can see you can just see the breakdown, and there's me at the bottom. Some of our successes, you guys mentioned it before, is starting at the bottom. And I do think we have to celebrate our successes in kindergarten and K2 as well, because those are going to be your successes later on down the line. So 71% of my kindergartners were at or above grade level in reading. And that's nice. That's good, knowing that they're going to go into first grade and they're already starting to read. That's something you can grow upon. Third grade is always one of my best grades, and they grew their Lexile points almost double over that anticipated 150 points of Lexile. And then 63.7% of third grade students were at or above grade level in math. And later on, when I go into my presentation, you'll see why I feel like that's so important, because they have a good foundation going into fourth grade math, and that was one of my weaker subjects last year. So I feel really confident. I've made some changes in fourth grade, in particular fourth and fifth, that will help counter some of those deficits. Some cultural successes, almost like Delco and Chadbourne here. We have a 100% retention rate at Hallsborough Artesia. Our teachers are there. They're there to stay. I think they're in it to win it, and I think that is always important. And then one of mine is, in the past year, we lost some of instructional hours due to OSS by 600 instructional hours. So I think that's always something to gain when you can have kids in the building, because if they're in the building, they're learning. So if you see what this year, we met growth. Our proficiency did go up. Our school improvement score did go down slightly. I told them when I presented this, I said, I didn't know last year if you get closer to the field goal line without getting tackled, and yet somehow we managed to do it. We still managed to be a D. And this summer, I know there was lots of talk of whether or not we were going to be a C or a D, and we came back still a D. So it was a little frustrating for them and for me, because we were right there teetering on it. I do feel confident, though, with some of the changes I've made in those upper grades, that we will turn that tide this year. So school attendance rate, and I'm going to turn my page because I have some notes from today as well. So our daily rate of attendance last year was 92.16%. This is pretty good, and it's a pretty good attendance rate, but our chronic rate was still 39.6. This year, we've improved it, so we're right at 94%, and then we have one student that's currently chronically absentee, and I do know of that situation. Our daily rate for September was 95, so we've made some good progress. And then, of course, you can see our chronic absentee rate from 2023 to now, we've narrowed that down as well. I think one of the positives here is going to be when we do have a full-time social worker on the East End. I think that's going to make a big difference, and I think that is something that's very key that might be missing from both my school and Miss Lenthal School, is that we've had a rotating social worker now for a while at our schools. So when we have a full-time social worker just for the East End schools, I do think that will help us tremendously with our chronic absenteeism.
One quick question. I
Sure.
know you talked about it last year, was the early departures.
So I still stand there every morning, and we have noticed a significant decrease. One of the things was previously they were allowed to just kind of drop them off up until like 8:30, and the parents were not required to come in. And so one of the changes I made last year was I required parents to come in and sign those kids in starting at 8:05. It makes a difference when you have to get out the car and go and sign your child in every day, and I'm standing right there.
Some other schools have done that as well, and it's made a big difference.
I mean, when I'm standing right there and I'm like, good morning, and they're going, oh, I'm late again, it makes a difference when they realize that I'm realizing this is a continuous cycle. So I think that is the big key, is when I'm standing at that door in the morning and they're having to come in to sign in.
This is accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and real quick, so my teacher attendance rate, so I know that's one thing that we are doing within the district as well, is looking at our teacher attendance rate, and it's not on here, but in September of last year, we had 92.6, and this year we're at 93.5. So my teacher attendance rate is really good. Sorry. So special population, as you can see, I don't have enough AIG students to make a subgroup. So that, to me, is an underrepresentation of, especially with my number of students in general. I mean, I have almost 400 students. I should have enough students in AIG to make that subgroup. EC students, I have 47, and they have made growth. So my EC teacher works really well and really hard with her students, and it shows. And I think as an EC teacher as well, and that's something that's very near and dear to my heart, you can't ever discount your EC students. They will come out.
She is a gem.
She is a gem. I will not trade her for anything. Do not worry.
On your AIG students, is it just not identifying them? Is it resources to identify them, or?
Explain that. Explain what you're talking about.
Sure. I think it's not identifying them. I think the fact that, we have an AIG person, but she roves. And now Miss Ward has been, she's new this year to our end of the county. She's been very good at communicating with me this year. That is something I've been very impressed with, is her communication with me, and this open, do you notice students that, are there students that I need to start identifying, and her talking to my teacher. So I do feel very positive about that change, that I think we're just not identifying them. I do.
Are we sending home literature to the parents on this stuff? Because I know sometimes the identification piece is hard.
Yes.
But maybe if, and this goes to all three, maybe if we send home some literature to parents, saying, hey, these are the opportunities for your child, and myself, I spoke with the principals and teachers as soon as those opportunities were made available to try to get those opportunities for mine. And sometimes, and I hate to say, I ain't gonna say that word, but sometimes just not knowing that it's available. And, 'cause most parents know when their child is very intellectually gifted. And, maybe some literature sent home to, kind of help that process out to where the parents are actually coming and talking about it more and getting involved on that piece a little bit.
I agree.
Will you please explain the criteria of being AIG and how you actually, that process and how it's determined?
Right, so my understanding, and again, I'm not the AIG teacher, but what we like to do is identify kids that are at least a grade level above where they should be. That would be on diagnostic tests that we give in class, or whether they're doing iReady. And then what I've encouraged my teachers to do is to reach out to the AIG teacher and say, hey, this student is showing that they are well above what they should be against their peers. And then that AIG teacher would come in and do her testing, and and then she would start communicating with the parents. So that is the usual process, and that was the process we did previously. But again, I feel really confident about this year because Ms. Ward has been very vocal as far as, like, even this morning, she was not feeling well and made sure to email me at 3 a.m. And I was able to forward that out to teachers. That type of communication is key.
Well, and I can speak firsthand about one of my children. So they were tested at an early age of, I think, maybe third grade.
Right, that's usually the age.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, then this kid goes to 5th grade maybe. And they're never retested, they're never. So my wife inquired about it, and he had already met the requirements because he had made a 5 or whatever it was, and she retested him, and he was AIG at that point.
Yes, sir. So what they do is,
Identifying that he would have failed, if we hadn't inquired.
if you hadn't inquired, yes, sir.
He would have fell through the cracks.
Yes, sir. I think that we need to early identify those kids. I think the PACE program, which is the K-2 part of it, is going to be crucial when we start identifying those kids so that we can be on alert so that they can be identified as AIG when they get to 3rd grade. I think that's going to be key yeah, they do the assessments in 3rd. The PACE program is K-2, where it's basically teacher input that these children may be AIG, and we need to foster them.
It's going to be a win-win because if you identify them, then you're going to challenge them.
Right. And I do think we need to think outside the box. For example, I have a kindergartner who can already read. He came to kindergarten reading. Well, I'm not going to let him sit in a kindergarten classroom every day and just for reading and learn letter sounds when he already can read. He goes across the hall to 1st grade reading every day. And that's what we have to do. We have to think outside the box and it not just be, this is my child in my room. We need to start looking at individual children, what's best for them, and foster that. If he sits in a kindergarten classroom doing letter sounds every day, he's going to get bored and we're going to lose him. So I need to put him in a 1st grade classroom, and he just walks right across the hall and goes to 1st grade reading, but still comes back to kindergarten for the social part of it because, I mean, he's socially not with his peers in 1st grade quite yet. We need to.
Once again, that's addressing my most common question of what are we doing for our overperforming students?
We need to foster them.
One thing I will say also is, we need to remember that when we identify these students early on, as Dr. Hill just said, we're challenging those students in the classroom. AIG is going to provide the services, and they do. They start kindergarten through 2nd grade with the PACE. They try to start identifying the intellectually gifted students, then they assess them in the 3rd grade. Or if they score a 95th percentile, I think it is on the EOG, they could be identified. But, it all goes back to, leading to what you just said, what is that regular ed teacher doing in the classroom to differentiate, to challenge that student? That's where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely.
In conjunction with what we're providing through the AIG department.
Thinking outside the box. It's not just my student anymore, but it's what's best for the child. As Mr. Beck and everyone has said, at the end of the day, you do what's best for the child.
That's right.
So our behaviors, I did not do percentages, I just did number of incidences. So I apologize if you wanted percentages, but I did number of incidents. So minor incidents, I do want to say this. I make my teachers utilize minor incidents for various reasons. One, it gives me an opportunity to track and see what's going on. Is there a history and a pattern? So when I get a major write-up, then I'm able to look back and see what has the teacher done, if anything, to correct a situation. So when you look at that and you see the number of minor incidences, please don't be alarmed at that number. I tell them if they make a phone call, go ahead and, if little Johnny hit another kid in the lunch line and you made that phone call home, go ahead and write it up in the minor and just say parent conference on there so I have a record of it as well. So if little Johnny comes back and he starts fighting 6 months later, I can see there has been a pattern that we've increased here. So please don't be alarmed at the number of incidences. The number of major incidences is 63%. My loss of instructional time was 137 days. So just this year alone, we have decreased our number. Our minors is only 16. Our majors have been 6. Again, you go hard at the very beginning, as my mom taught me when I was becoming a teacher. Start tough in the beginning, and then you can relax up at the end, but you cannot get tougher as time goes on. And then October, there is one incident there that's skewing my data of the 21 days. It's one particular situation that that I'm handling with.
There's a referral been made to Alternative, so hopefully.
Yes, we can provide some services and help for her. But major takeaways here is that in previous years, in 2022 and 2023, they actually had 115 instructional days. So last year I reduced that number by 100 days. I think it's really important that we provide the support that students need and try to keep them in school as much as possible, but that does not mean we let things get out of hand, by no means.
And I think also, Dr. Hill, as I've instructed the leadership team, I want them in schools as much as possible, and we've had this conversation, and I've visited your school a couple times, being in those classrooms, your students are engaged, seeing the principal in those classrooms. That's also across the board, even at the other 2 schools that have already presented. That's going to make a big difference as well, because you never know when the principal's popping in, because they're going to check, monitor, and then we're going to adjust and deal with the issues that we have to deal with.
Plus, I like to eat lunch with the kids, I'm not going to lie. All right, so my teacher working condition survey, as you can see, one of the lowest performances on here, and I put some of my best and worst, because let's not, is that we're not providing the social emotional learning support services, as Mr. Coleman stated. So what are we doing about it would be the next thing. And then most of my teachers feel that I'm responsive, or we're responsive to safety needs, and it's a good place to work, but we need to start putting social and emotional learning at the forefront. So when we got the teacher working condition survey and we started dissecting it at the summit, we made that one of our goals in our school improvement plan, as supporting social and emotional learning.
And I'll say something on that. I'm just thinking about some things, you can look at data on every disciplinary, when you start having disciplinary actions, and there's a triggering point. There's something that's
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as we find those things, being able to put something in place that's going to be huge in curbing that, because something's causing it.
Mm-hmm.
If when we start having problems, we have to reach out. We have to find out what's going on. So.
I think our chronic student problems, those are the ones where we have to really reach out. I think that 2 boys playing on the playground, they played football, and then one took it a little too far. And that's where you go case by case. That's when you look at case by case. But if you have a student that's chronically in your office, then there is something, and we need to figure out what it is. I will say on this cultural data snapshot, we're very fortunate at Hallsboro to have it. Still is a very community-based school. And I love that about that school. I had a church that reached out, and they got a grant from Duke University to install a washer and dryer system at our school. And they're going to bring in volunteers once a week to wash and dry student clothing. That doesn't seem to be major, but for a child who's walking around with dirty clothes, that's a major thing. And for a church to reach out to me and have written that grant for my school or our school, that's huge. I had a gentleman come today with 3 pallets full of food. And he's going to bring about 70 turkeys at Thanksgiving to give out to families. That is an amazing thing that we have in this community, is still to have that community support around that. And that is a true testament to helping our social emotional learning. If a kid doesn't have clean clothes, they're not going to want to sit into a math class, bottom line. So I think that's important. So I will read our goals real quick. We will, and I'm going to say will on this, we will achieve a performance grade of 60 or higher by the end of this year, or by the end of the 2025-2026 school year. And you can see our action steps that we're going to do with that, but we will achieve that goal. Yeah. We will continue to see a decline in student referrals by 10% by the end of this school year. And I think some of that also will go into speak a part of the social emotional learning. That's where this piece is going to come into play. We also have started morning meetings at my school. I absolutely love morning meetings. If you want to enjoy a morning, please come and go to my 5th grade Miss Sikafus's morning meetings. They're like my favorite part of the day. And I thought I was going to be in tears the last one I was in. I was like, these kids are going to make me cry. But it is really good at the kids actually open up, and you wouldn't think 5th graders are going to open up about, you know, doing something kind, but they did, and it's really moving. So morning meetings and part of that resilience team is a huge piece, and that also goes with social emotional learning. And then we're going to continue to see a decline in student and teacher absenteeism. I do think that by getting a full-time social worker on the East End, that will help tremendously with that part of it. I also think having those, right now I have 3 students that we consider to be chronic absentee as of today. And those 3 students I'm going to reach out to tomorrow because we identified them today.
We've already started that.
See.
I started that this afternoon.
This is, I'm sorry, as a true heel, this is my principal intern, Ms. Amber Howard. I took over the mic. I'm so sorry.
You're right. But we started talking about that during our PLCs today. So I've already reached out to 2 of those 3 to try and figure out what's wrong. And one, I believe, is one that was
moving
last year.
Yes.
And then another one is moving.
So these are our goals, and we're claiming them now. Our 3-year school performance goal, we are still at a 54, but we are going to become a 56, and we'll be a C school finally. And when I get that C, I want a big C somewhere on that school, big and bold, because we've worked 2 good, hard years for it. And then, as you can see, we want to continue to grow and be a 58 by the end of the 2025-2026, and then a 60 by the 26-27 school year. So opportunity. So one of the opportunities we had this year was ensuring that staff members are placed in the best possible fit and grade level to ensure student and staff success. I think that's key. Sometimes teachers, you know, we are K-6 certified. Most of us in that building are K-6 certified. We can teach from kindergarten to 6th grade. Sometimes we might get tired of teaching in an upper grade and we need to go back lower, and that's okay. And I think when you have those conversations and you make those changes, you're going to see positive results in your school performance. And that's exactly what I've done this year at Hallsboro. I made some changes that were going to benefit my students, and that's what's key, is keeping them at the forefront. I think we're going to continue to tailor social and emotional supports for students to proactively address disciplinary problems. I think, Mr. Coleman, that's what you're talking about, is let's proactively address the disciplinary problems. And then a challenge is to educate our whole school community. Again, I think this goes along with Ms. Linthal about the impacts of absenteeism and how that's not going to help us continue to close those gaps if students are not in the building. And that is it for Hallsboro Artesia. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving on. Curriculum, instruction, and accountability.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have review and action on the revised testing calendar and NC check-in testing calendar. The state doesn't have grade 8 science check-ins ready. And so we changed those dates to be determined, and then the biology dates now have been added. So those are the adjustments that have been made to the testing calendar and the NC check-in testing calendar. So it would be my recommendation that the board approve the revision to the testing calendar and the NC check-in testing calendar.
You've heard the recommendation from Mr. Beck that we approve the testing calendar and North Carolina check-in testing calendar. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Coleman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Long. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving right along, next on the agenda, we have a presentation on the learning framework from Mrs. Laura Hunter. This was requested by the board, so here she is to aim to please.
Do you want to be Vanna White? Because I support. All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to move through this with purpose this evening. I tell my children that all the time, let's move with purpose. But if at any point you need me to stop and ask a question, please interrupt me. Okay. So I came on board last year, and I spent a good portion of last year getting to know Columbus County Schools, doing a curriculum audit, doing an instructional audit, understanding our instructional needs across our district. I did a lot of listening and questioning to figure out where we were and why it was that we were in a bit of a stagnant place in terms of school growth. One of the things that emerged for me was the absence of an instructional framework. Most successful districts have a scaffold or a blueprint, as it is, to unify and provide a common language around teaching and learning. And we didn't have one. And it became clear to me that that was important in order to move this district forward. A lot of people were talking about things like lesson planning, but what they were talking about was different at different places. And so there wasn't a unified kind of vision. So I pulled together a team of people, principals, assistant principals, instructional leads, teachers, and we started visioning where do we want to see our schools in a decade from now. And once we envisioned what that looked like, we worked backwards and said, okay, so what do we need to put into place to get to that beautiful place a decade from now? And so we started to craft a vision and then a purpose behind that vision. Our vision was to have a culture in Columbus County Schools around a lifelong learner, not just a learner within the K-12 experience. And that needed to include our teachers and our leaders. We wanted this place to be a place where authentic, real learning takes place, where problem solving and collaboration and critical thinking are the drivers behind the learning experience, so that every learner sees themselves not just as a mathematician or a reader, but as a productive part of the learning experience. And finally, we wanted an environment where everybody is growing and everybody sees themselves as growing forward. There's not a period on the end of the sentence. We are continuously getting better. And so in order to build that, we knew that we needed to equip everybody in that vision with skills and knowledge and foster a passion to navigate forward. And that didn't just mean our students, but our teachers and our leaders as well. And so we built a blueprint, and that blueprint is in your hands right now. We're calling it a learning framework, not an instructional framework. And that blueprint is comprehensive, built out of a body of research that creates a cohesive language around what it means to be a continuous learner in this district and what it means to continually grow. And that's why what you see across this learning framework is a cyclical kind of structure. We are constantly recycling and growing in that learning process. So this framework is kind of simple. It is a departure from what most instructional frameworks look like. We were really intentional about identifying within this framework two things. First, the learners. Who are we talking about in this district when we say learners? And the people that we're talking about are, of course, our students. They're our clients. But we also are talking about growing and nurturing teachers and fostering and growing leaders. So we wanted everybody to see themselves represented in this continuous cycle of growth. So we talk about the learners, and the other part of this framework is the what. So what are they learning? How are they learning? What happens when they learn, right? So the second framework structure is around three cyclical processes: content and competencies. This is the state standards, academic skills, science behind how it is that we are learning, instructional practices that yield high impacts on student learning, and then application. What happens when we put those things together? What comes at the end? And then how do we turn that application into a new cycle of learning new skills and growing in new ways? So these two pieces together, learner and learning, the who and the what, build this continuous cycle of learning that is represented in our new Columbus County Schools instructional framework. We wanted to make this a framework that was being able to be consumed in bite-sized chunks, right? It's a pretty ambitious vision. And so we chunked it into phases. Phase 1 is a 2-year phase-in. Phase 2 is another 2-year one. And phase 3 is 2 years, but really forever. So if we get good at this, then we're going to continue to build capacity in that phase 3 work for as long as we continue to work within this framework. So in phase 1, let me just tell you that the focus really is on building foundational knowledge and foundational skills. So what you'll see across our district in relationship to phase 1 is a real focus on 4 things. First is knowing your content. So we want kids to know their content, we need teachers to know their content, and we need leaders to know their content. We need everybody to plan systematically. So there's a really strong focus in foundationally building the skill set to systematically and effectively plan for learning. You'll see designing for rigorous thinking. We want to start to build capacity to push kids over what I call the rigor divide. So move from complacent learning into active, engaged learning with critical thinking. And finally, growing our kids. That's ultimately the goal, but not just our kids, but growing our teachers and growing our leaders so we build our capacity to best support kids. Phase 2 refines that by beefing up our capacity to really grow learners through rigorous tasks. And phase 3, I'm getting ahead of myself. Phase 3 is really looking at making sure we're applying that in authentic, real ways and building out our capacity to create authentic learning experiences from kids, from labs and experimentation and problem-based learning to things like internships and real-world experiences where kids apply what they know to new and unique and relevant situations. So here's where we are right now. You'll see up in the corner our kind of logo for phase 1 of this implementation: Know, Plan, Design, Grow. And this summer, we started this process by reworking every single one of our curriculum maps across every core content area: English, math, science, and social studies, across every single grade level from kindergarten through 12th grade. It was a Herculean task. We wanted to build the most comprehensive and most user-friendly curriculum maps possible for teachers. And we wanted to do that because we knew we were going to come in heavy and support systematic planning, and we needed to make sure that we put into teachers' hands documents that were aligned to a process that would support them. We also knew that teachers were coming into the school year with the kind of added burden of having to learn some new curriculum programs. We have adopted a K-12 ELA program. We've adopted a K-8 math program. We have new science standards with new science practices that are in place. So that we knew teachers were going to have to learn new things this year. And so we really invested quite a bit of time in building curriculum maps and unit plans to help support teachers in that process. We launched a comprehensive lesson planning toolkit for teachers. We built out a very comprehensive web page that's a landing page for teachers. We're continuing to work on that. Kelly Jones over here is working on some chatbot opportunities so that teachers can really use that website to search and become user-friendly. In August, we did some curriculum training with teachers. The first phase of that was voluntary, so any teacher that wanted to come could, and then we launched a comprehensive one at Convocation. Would we have loved to have more time to do that? Absolutely, but our school calendar is what it is, right? And so In the month of September and October and November and December, we continue in our small but mighty instructional services team to go out in schools and support principals and teachers in learning their new curriculum programs, navigating their curriculum maps, and building lesson plans that are really comprehensive and dig deep into what students need to be learning in order to master standards. So we did beginning of the year data. We did a lot of assessments at the beginning of the year through our curriculum programs K-8 with iReady diagnostics in reading and math, in-class testing, and some beginning of the year data in high school. And we are tracking that, and then in January we will do middle of the year testing and see where we are in terms of growing kids, and kind of continue to make some shifts along the way in terms of supporting this pretty heavy lift in really transforming our learning environments for kids and teachers. So I know you've heard a lot about lesson planning, and I really am kind of glad that you're hearing a lot about lesson planning. So message received that we are going to be working hard to really make sure that we have equitable opportunities for kids across this district. We can't have B schools and F schools in this district. We have to make sure that every kid gets a quality experience in this district, but also I'm a teacher, I have a teacher's heart, and I know that teachers stay in this business if they feel effective with kids. And so my goal is to support teachers in growing their capacity to be as effective with our student body as possible. So we've rolled out a lesson planning process, and I really am using that word intentionally. The process is what matters. The template doesn't matter. It's the process that matters. And so let me walk you through that process really quick so that you kind of understand what I'm talking about. So lesson planning is foundational in our practice, right? It's like going in and building a building and having the blueprint in front of you, right? You would never start without that blueprint. The lesson plan is the blueprint. And so what you need to do is start with understanding what it is you want kids to learn, not just in the topic that is chosen and not just in the standard, but really breaking down that standard into what is the what is the core content, and what are the skills. And when you combine those two systematically over a learning experience, you build opportunities for mastery. What we have found last year and as we've rolled out this year is that teachers were doing a really amazing job of identifying topic and tangentially aligning a standard to it, but they were not being as intentional as they needed to be of breaking down that standard into know and do. And the result is when you do that, you push kids towards mastery, but if you don't break down a standard into know and do, oftentimes you keep kids busy in a class doing things, but you're not moving them towards mastery. So phase one is just knowing what you want kids to know and do. Phase two is figuring out how they're going to show you that they can know and do it by the end of the learning segment, right? So how are we going to assess kids? What are they going to do to show us they got it? Phase three is breaking down the know and do into a series of learning experiences that allow kids to eat it one bite at a time, right? To build capacity, to put it all together to show us they can do the whole thing by the end of the lesson. Part 4 of this process is making it good, right? So enhancing this lesson by activating prior knowledge, building in academic vocabulary so kids can speak fluently second grade math when they're doing this second grade math lesson, right? And so that it's enticing, it's interesting, right? We don't want to sit and get all the time. We want to make sure that we are infusing our lesson plans with opportunities for kids to talk and collaborate and build and experiment and also fail on the way to success, right? Because that's one of the greatest lessons in our parts of learning is doing it wrong until you do it right, right? And then finally, reflecting. Did I connect all the dots as I put together this lesson plan? One of the things we've hit heavy with teachers is following a process matters. If you don't hit all of these parts in planning, then something's going to be missed. And what we find is across our landscape, we are missing the opportunity to push kids towards mastery and growth because we maybe are not being as intentional as we need to be with lesson planning. So we've been doing this for 2 months now. Month 1, we got lots of phone calls asking for help. I had many teachers send me their lesson plans to look at and review. Our instructional coaches were working around the clock, 7 days a week almost, kind of supporting teachers as they were learning their curriculum programs and figuring out how to navigate all the things. That has gotten better this past month, and we're seeing a lot more settling in. One of the things that we've seen across the district has been a very intentional use of curriculum programs in about 85 to 90% of our classrooms, and that's a win because most of the time when you implement a new program or a set of new programs, you're really lucky if you get more than 50 or 60% with fidelity of implementation. So we are really ahead of that game. We've already done instructional rounds related to our math curriculum, and we've gotten feedback. We're doing instructional rounds related to our reading curriculum next week in our K2 reading program. We have done one whole set of data collection related to kind of where we are in terms of ready to learn in our classrooms, looking for evidence of systematic planning. That evidence has been strong. We're moving into our second round this month, and I've been norming that tool with principals and with instructional coaches. And I'm glad that teachers are talking to each other about lesson planning, struggling a little bit through the process because that tells me we're growing in new and powerful ways. Let me just say that I believe really strongly in the teaching faculty and staff in Columbus County Schools and their capacity to move kids forward. I am in schools absolutely every day, in classrooms absolutely every day, trying to get a sense for where we are and where we can move the needle. And I see an incredible group of professionals who are digging deep and productively struggling to do the best thing for their kids. So that's it. That's where we are. What questions do you have?
Mine's about to explode.
So there's no doubt in my mind that I know this is this looks like a massive undertaking. Ms. Hunter and the leads have worked very, very hard to provide as many resources as they possibly can. I will say that I take it upon myself to visit schools alone or with Mr. Thompson. I come back and have reflective conversations with Ms. Hunter, and most of the time we are spot on. So the process is working, and if we're going to move the needle, which we have to,
Right.
It's going to take a lot of hard work, dedication, and it's going to take some support from you guys because there's no doubt in my mind. I've seen the shift in the last month. I've not received as many phone calls, as we'll just leave it at that, about the lesson planning. I think we're headed in the right direction, and we just basically have to trust the process. We're in good hands. Mr. Worley asked, about the instructional leads. They see something good in this school, what are they doing, to promote that in the other school? It all goes back to, this process, and they're in those schools on a daily basis, sharing ideas, modeling, coaching, and that's where we're going to see the needle shift, and that's what we really need. I'm a firm believer in it. We've got to trust it.
I think that, I think you quoted 80% versus you expected it to be 50%.
Yeah.
As far as utilization part of it, which is, the accepting of it.
They are. They're troopers, digging in and learning how to do the things. It's hard to learn how to use new programs. It's hard to learn how to plan in a different way than maybe you were accustomed to. One of the most common pieces of feedback that I get from teachers is that they've never been pushed to really break down their standards into know and do. They've something to tag into a lesson plan, but not really to study. And some of the most incredible teachers that we have in our district have said, thank you for pushing me to look at my standards more comprehensively. I didn't understand, or I didn't see the progression of. We can't move kids to standards mastery if we don't really understand what our standards are asking us to do.
How are we going to reward these teachers for using this with fidelity so far?
How are we rewarding them? Well, with all the tricks of the trade that I have in my very empty purse, which is lots of praise, lots of thumbs up. I really think that getting instructional coaches into their spaces and affirming that their work matters and what we see them doing is mattering. And also, I think as teachers are getting better, they're spending less time lesson planning than they were. And that in itself is a reward. They feel more successful in their classroom.
And we can't leave out our administrators.
Yeah.
Because our administrators have really bought into this process as well. And I think that's where you see, okay, the rewarding of the teachers through the morale of the school, events that they may plan, whatever rewards they may have in place. But we definitely can't leave out our administrators because they're working equally as hard and they're on board. We have a meeting Thursday, and I've been very pleased with the principal meetings thus far, as well as the PLCs.
You brought this, you ignited this, so you talked about blueprints and building and lifelong learning. How well is our curriculum tying in, and have you had any discussions with CTE teachers and folks like that?
So CTE lives in kind of a different world, and I work really hard to jump into that world from time to time, but Tom McLam is the master of that world and that universe, not I. But I will tell you that the one thing that CTE gets that our core teachers don't get is they get really strong blueprints for learning. One of the benefits of our CTE program is that because it's funded predominantly through federal dollars, there's a lot of money that's invested in developing core curriculum maps that are very concrete. We don't have that in the land of core curriculum in the state of North Carolina. They have pushed down that responsibility to us at the local level. And so we have to make that happen with our small but mighty team of 4 instructional coaches and Laura Hunter, when CTE has the mighty kind of mechanism behind that entire program behind it. So they are really lucky that they have that, and they have their lesson plans pretty scripted for them. And as a result, they're pretty successful.
They have theirs laid out. And one thing, you said your head was hurting. One thing you have to take into context is this is a multi-year process. So you take it in chunks, then your head doesn't hurt quite as bad, and you start to realize, hey, this is going to be meaningful work, and it is going to produce the results that we need to see.
I will say that we rolled out almost 200 new unit plans this summer, and we are still working on building unit plans and adapting them and changing them as teachers give us feedback about what's working or what's not working. We are going back in and adjusting them to meet the needs of teachers as they really use them on the ground.
I just would like to say thank you for taking on this challenge. I think that for myself, we've been preaching up here, what are we going to do to increase rigor? What are we going to do to increase student learning? And really the only way to increase that is to increase our teacher learning and to increase our teacher rigor in a way. It's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, but I think with the overall educational experience and the learning that our children need in this new life that we live in, the technology world, we're not competing against Columbus County or North Carolina, we're competing against the world. And, in order for us to do that, we've got to do things that everybody else is doing.
That's right.
Better. So just thank you and keep up the good work.
The relationship I was talking about with CTE and your curriculum is there's a little gap in CTE too, that there's some of these students that feel like they're academic learners and that they're college bound in this field, and they get there and they realize that I hate this. So that's what I'm talking about, is maybe we can get some tie-in there, that some of those students need to be in a CTE program. But when you tie the curriculums and explain to them why that is, that they're excelling in this particular part of their curriculum and this is the field they could go into, those paths might be different if we, and I know that's gonna take time, and it's gonna take this curriculum being implemented for a year or two to even be able to figure that out.
Yeah, and I think that's where your career plans, that's where that's going to come into play, because, we're going to review those. It's going to be ongoing by the 10th grade definitely, but the career plans, that's going to really steer them in the right direction. The apprenticeship program we have with Southeastern, absolutely wonderful. We're providing the options, and I'm very excited to say that, there's no doubt in my mind that in the very near future, any student that's in Columbus County Schools will at least have the option to pursue what it is that they're interested in and what will provide them with meaningful results for their future.
I will just speak to that very directly. It is my mission in the universe to make sure that every kid in Columbus County Schools has a real clear vision of the opportunities and experiences that are available to them, both in their K-12 experience and has a very clear success plan for when they graduate from high school. We have not been as intentional about that as we should be, and I am working very hard to correct that. So right now, Ms. Green is working her way through every single 10th grader in the district and building career development plans with them and setting SMART goals for the rest of their sophomore year and into their junior year. When she finishes, which will happen very soon with that crew, she is backing up to 9th grade. And our hope is also to start to pick up our 8th graders in second semester so that we build a comprehensive plan moving forward. We already have a pretty strong system of support in our 11th and 12th grade through AmeriCorps with college counselors like Tristan at South Columbus. They're picking up that ball and rolling with it, and I think that what we see with such high FAFSA completion rates, for example, is that we're doing that a little bit more successfully, but we can be better. I want every kid, when they walk across the graduation stage, to be able to declare what their E is. Are they enrolling? Are they employed? Are they enlisting? And why does that matter to them? And have had the opportunity to explore that so they know it's the right fit for them. I'll speak for an example. My own son is a senior this year. He completed a welding program diploma last year. He really thought welding was going to be his jam. It was not. And I'm so grateful that he got that out of the way in his junior year and really got to experience that both in that program but in an apprenticeship. So now he can really feel comfortable about his declaration to join the Coast Guard because he knows that's a better fit for him.
And we got to continue to teach our teachers on that front too, that in math, if our teachers don't know how that math can relate to a real life job, then how are they going to intrigue that student to learn that math or read or whatever it might be, science? They've got to be able to articulate that into these career plans and say, this is why it's not just about making a high score on the EOG. This is why you need it, and this is what you're good at, and then in return, they will do good on the EOG.
I feel that too.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Hunter.
All right. Student Support Services.
All right, Ms. McCready. Ms. McCready's sitting in the back, so if you have any questions about these next two items, she'll be glad to answer. We have review and action on contract services for the Exceptional Children's Program for 2024-2025 school year. We have Chelsea Lynn Lewis, AUD, which is audiological services. And then we have Banner Consulting LLC, which is orientation and mobility instructor services. So do you have anything you'd like to add to that? I know we have been looking for an audiologist and those services for quite a while. So it's absolutely wonderful that you were able to find someone for those services. So anything you'd like to add while we present?
Just really quickly, yeah. So now that we are going to have a contracted audiologist, we can use the hearing booth at the Department of Health that has gone unused for the last few years.
Which we do own, by the way.
And so we went and visited, and we're getting it recalibrated and all ready to use again, and so that this is really good news for us. Also, it was great news for us to find an orientation and mobility specialist. Those people are hard to find, and I happen to know this person who is going to be working with us, and he is fabulous. So both are really good news.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that the board approve the contract with Chelsea Lynn Lewis for audiological services and also Bina Consulting LLC, orientation and mobility instructor services.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the two contracts that he listed out. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Enzer, second by Mr. Long. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. McCready.
Mr. Thompson.
Okay, moving right along, Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Chairman, we have several items that are on for review under auxiliary services tonight. The first three being EA Duncan construction invoices for the Williams Township Gymnasium and Classroom Project. Invoice number 24-1773 was for the first, for the completion of the demo of the existing gym for $150,000. Invoice number 24-1774 was the first 30% of the concrete and 25% of the plumbing at $163,250. And then invoice 24-1789 was the concrete final for another $280,000 for a total of $593,250.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Okay, our next item is ECS Southeastern LLC. These invoices was invoice 1199877. That was the wetland delineation for the Bolton property. That final invoice was for $1,600. Okay. Next we have LS3P invoices. Invoice number 89602. That was part of the design, preliminary design. Also invoice 88146. That was also preliminary design work and reimbursable expenses. First invoice was $143,378.41. The remaining invoice was $87,493.96 for a total of $230,872.40.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. That concludes auxiliary services.
All right, we'll move on to general items.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have review and action on additional fundraiser requests for the following: Columbus Career and College Academy. They had multiple fundraiser requests. You can view those through the attachment. East Columbus Junior Senior High School, their extensions classroom wants to establish a school-based enterprise where they would sell trinkets that they create and build at the school, or make at the school, I should say, at the Pecan Festival. And then West Columbus School has requested that we approve a Spirit Rock fundraiser. So, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the board approve those three fundraiser requests.
For the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the three fundraising requests for the three schools listed on the agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Worley. I almost forgot your name. Second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next we have review and action on school in-state overnight trip requests. West Columbus High School FFA is requesting to spend the night in Robinson County, November the 15th through the 16th. West Columbus High School FFA is also requesting to spend the night in Raleigh, November 20th through the 21st. Those are competitions, and it's my understanding that the Robeson County request is because they finish late and they start really early. So I did check into that because I thought Robeson County was mighty close to be spending the night. But, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that the board approve both of the requests for in-state overnight trip requests from West Columbus High School FFA.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the in-state overnight trip request for West Columbus High School FFA. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Enzer. Second by Mr. Long. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving along, the next review and action is on a school out-of-state overnight trip request, which is also West Columbus High School Beta Club. They're traveling to New York, December the 15th through the 18th, and they will take a bus to the train station, so they will be traveling by train. Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the board approve the request from the West Columbus High School Beta Club for the out-of-state overnight trip to New York.
For the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the out-of-state overnight trip request for West Columbus High School Beta Club to New York in December. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Enzer. Second by Mr. Long. Any discussion? I have discussion. Are we leaving one of our activity buses at a train station somewhere?
So I will have to inquire about that, Mr. Strickland.
That concerns me.
Okay.
They may have a protected area, I don't know.
They may, and I will inquire.
All right.
I will find out.
Just make sure it's
I
either
will-
in a safe, secure area,
Or either we bring it back
or
and go
we
back.
either bring it back and go back to pick them up.
I will make sure that's the stipulation.
All right.
Where are they leaving from? Does it say?
It's probably Fayetteville Amtrak.
Yeah, yeah.
It is Fayetteville.
And the train station in Fayetteville is not historically been the safest area.
Okay. We'll have a discussion with Mr. Browning in the morning.
All right.
I'll take
Thanks, sir.
I'll take care of that.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next we have a review and action on out-of-state trip request, East Columbus Junior Senior High School. We're traveling to Ripley's Aquarium. That will be the Extensions class and the Animal Science 2 class. And Williams Township Chorus will be traveling to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for a performance show November the 12th. So, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the board approve those two out-of-state field trip requests.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the two out-of-state trip requests for East Columbus Junior Senior High School and Williams Township School, both of which are to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long.
Second.
Second by Mr. Worley. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next we have a review and action on the selection of voting delegates for the North Carolina School Boards Association Annual Conference, which is November the 18th through the 20th, 2024. You do get to select 4 delegates. Mr. Phipps, we did discuss how this process should work about as far as the recommendation and how those would be selected. So, Mr. Phipps, would you like to explain how this process needs to work to select the 4 delegates?
To pick the 4 delegates, I think the last time that we did it, Ronnie, you did not go, and I think you simply didn't make a motion, but you actually appointed the other 4 members as the delegates.
Yeah, well, I did go, but
You just didn't know you were.
I didn't go to the delegate meeting.
Right.
And that's fine. I mean, as long as it's some consensus with the board
Okay.
to go.
All right.
Okay, so we need to
Is
select-
everybody going?
Yes.
You going? Okay. I would say we do the same thing and have
Same
the
thing
other
as
4
last year?
board members as our voting delegates
Okay.
for the delegate.
All right, we'll make that notation, and that's what Miss Ruthie will. What was that?
What is the dates of that this year?
18th, November 18th through
18th through the 20th. We'll leave on Sunday afternoon.
Yes, you're leaving on Sunday evening, which is the 17th, returning the 20th.
Yep.
All right.
So Ms. Harper will submit those 4
All right.
names. Okay, Mr. Chairman, next we have review and action on the revision to policy 3400-R, evaluations of student progress. If you have looked at the attachment, we're basically just aligning, we're upgrading our policy to match the report cards. We no longer use EOM for consistently meeting, and in EOM for not meeting in grades K through 2, we're using proficient, approaching proficiency, minimal proficiency, not proficient, or NA. So we're basically aligning our board policy and updating it. So I would make the recommendation that the board approve the revision to policy 3400-R, evaluations of student progress.
And you've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the revision to policy 3400-R, evaluation of student progress. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long,
Second.
second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and finally, we have review and action on the appointment of school advisory council members for the 2024-2025 school year from Mr. Chris Worley and Mr. Ronnie Strickland. Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the board approve the recommendations and appointments of school advisory council members from Mr. Chris Worley and Mr. Ronnie Strickland.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the late submitted school advisory council members for Mr. Worley and Mr. Strickland. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Enzer. All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Sorry, Chris, I had to lump you in there with me.
Yeah,
Hey,
I thought I was on time, but
Misery loves company.
Yeah.
Dates to remember, number 9, you can read those at your convenience.
On the dates to remember.
Yes, sir.
The next school board meeting is on Veterans Day, the 11th. We didn't change it.
We changed that to November the 4th.
Okay. That's right, because it's going to be 2 weeks, yeah. Okay.
And
Fifth.
Fifth, yes.
we do,
meeting's the 4th.
Huh?
yeah, the meeting's on the 4th.
The meeting is the 4th, yes. We moved that.
We need to look at the December 9th meeting.
Okay.
I will be at a conference in New Orleans.
Okay, so we can get some dates together and
Yeah.
we'll,
Just send it out.
yep, we certainly will. Any other questions or comments about the dates to remember?
Make sure we get copies of the holiday performances
Yes.
from the schools.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and next, Mr. Chairman, we have finance. We have the 24-25 school year budget and audit update from Mr. Nolan.
Good evening, gentlemen. Keep
Good
it
evening.
brief. You can expect the budget presentation for our November board meeting, so coming up on the 4th. Allotment process, just want to give you an update from, the month past. We are now at revision 35 from the state. We were at 19 a month ago, so you can see that ball keeps moving. But we have, updated all of our systems. Our CTE budgets have been entered. I actually just finished up entering in the EC budgets prior to this board meeting. I'll begin on the kindergarten in the morning. That's the last federal budget to complete. Our local funds, we've received that allotment letter. That still stands. Cash flow, we remain in good cash flow balance. The budgets will be entered and reconciled into SunPac records, so I'll be looking to get those reports out to you very soon. Our auditors were on site the 7th, 8th, and 9th of this past month. We've completed that initial data request. They have come back to us with a second request. We are compiling that information to get them prior to that 31st deadline. However, in conversations with the auditors, it was their decision to file for a 30-day extension
Okay.
for the November deadline. And reason being, our audit firm audits 85 out of 115 LEA districts, and everybody's due date's the 31st.
Right.
So that's, 75% of the state running through that one firm.
And I did, Mr. Chairman, speak personally with the auditors about the board's expectation to complete the audit in a timely fashion. So that is spot on as far as what Mr. Nolan just stated.
Yeah, and I totally understand that, but if they're gonna do 75% of the school districts, then they need to hire the people necessary to do it. I will not be happy if they ask for another extension for us next year.
Understood, sir.
So,
And
we
we will,
can
and we'll
find
make
somebody else
that,
too.
and we will make that notation.
Right, please
Just
do.
like we certainly will.
And that's no reflection on you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, the audit company needs to have the audit completed in time and on time.
Yes, sir. That concludes my update. If you have any questions, please let me know.
I don't have any.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
We
sir.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. I need a motion for closed session, gentlemen.
I move that Columbus County Board of Education go into closed session in accordance with the open meeting laws, GS 143-318-11A13, one, to discuss information that's privileged, confidential, or not a public record. Consult with an attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and public body.
I have a motion for closed session from Mr. Enzer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Worley. All in favor of going into closed session at this time, let it be known by the sign of aye.